Capri, welcome to episode 100 of We the GamerCast. It's the official podcast of WeTheNerdy.com, and it publishes on iTunes, Google Play, and mother-loving YouTube every Monday. Thank you for listening, subscribing. Thank you for rating the show on iTunes, and Google Play, and all those other places. Guys, holy crap, episode 100. We're not going to do the whole rambling on and on and on about my week and all that stuff and what I'm playing and what I'm freaking out about. This is a celebration of everybody who's been part of this show and celebrating Patreon. We made this milestone thanks to you. We are on youtube.com/WeTheNerdy. We don't really do a whole lot of video over there. So this is the first chance that we're really doing a concerted effort, and it's all thanks to your support. And we're going to jump right into it. We're going to take a little trip down memory lane in case you guys didn't know what was happening here. I'm getting way ahead of myself. If you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with strangers from the internet, and if you want to be part of the show, it's easy. Just tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery Capri, like the pants, like so many people that I wish I could say it was 100 people, but there's some return guests, some E3 stuff that happens here. I don't really have 100 guests, although maybe I'm not going to get into the weeds. Somebody out there can do all of the counting, but let's just say I've had many dozens of fantastic conversations, some very, very serious stuff, some just getting to know one another. But the common thing is that this all started as an experiment to see if We the GamerCast is a concept that can work in the real world. And you being here today proves that indeed it is not only possible, but it can reach triple digits. I can't express how grateful I am that people support the show just by listening, by rating on iTunes. And of course, Patreon is the reason that this is now video. And thanks to Patreon, this episode, holy crap, this is very complicated. Doing the very first video, it sounded like a really good thing to do. This is what I should do for people, for supporting like that. There are many clips, and hope you guys enjoy this trip down memory lane. We're going to start with my boy, Seamus Mullins. He was the very first one. I posted in the Kind of Funny group back in Christmas 2015. Says, is anybody interested in any of this to be a guest on the show? I didn't even know what it was, and Seamus put up his hand, and he was there. He's been my boy ever since. And right before we jump into a clip from him, and this whole episode is dedicated to clips over the years, over the dozens and dozens, the 100 episodes. We're going to hear how terrible I was at doing this intro. It's well, not that this is really that great either, but we'll go back to episode 11 when I took over the show for We the Nerdy, and let's get into that right now. Hi everyone, it's me, Sean Capri, and welcome to episode 11 of a brand new, rebooted We the GamerCast. It's a new show, and I'm your new host. This podcast will always come to you on Mondays because nobody seems to want to do podcasts on Mondays, so I'm claiming Mondays podcasts. So there, I said it. It's podcasts on Mondays.
So the radio station that's actually part of, that's Radio Adelaide, and that's a community radio station, and they're actually owned by the university that I go to, and so they sort of have a bit of agreement. So as part of my degree, I did a couple subjects over at the radio station, like learning how to do radio and do things like podcasts as well, recording, speaking, doing shows, doing breakfast news and stuff like that. This past semester, I was doing breakfast news, and for 4 weeks of the semester, I was there from 6 to 9 a.m. doing the news every single morning.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was full on, but it was really fun.
So
and I finished.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say when I finished doing all that stuff throughout this year, because I'm sort of in holidays at the moment. I was looking for other programs to do, and I knew Zap's the video game program that we have at the station, and I just was like, I messaged their Facebook group and started messaging a couple of guys. I'm like, do you have a space for me to come on? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on. And I did just my second show on Friday night, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far.
That intro is kind of hard to listen to now, isn't it? It's hard to believe, but I mean, back in those days, I actually wrote down the entire thing and read it right off of the page. So, because I was so scared of messing up, I was so scared of saying the wrong thing or forgetting to say something, and I'm glad that I got away from that. But Seamus was the eye-opener, man. Seamus was the guy who stepped up, and he just blew me away, and I'm like, maybe it's not even just about me. I just need to have good guests. And that sort of blew this whole thing wide open. We're going to get to Bobby, the Geek Guru, in just a second. But before we do that, I wanted to remind you guys, or tell you maybe for the first time, that you can win a month of EA access. All you have to do is follow the GamerCast, at We the GamerCast, and I'm going to tweet out a link that you can tell me your favorite game, and I'm going to give one of you guys a chance to play Madden 18 for the very first time. You get an early trial, early access, thanks to our friends at Xbox Canada and Veritas. So be on the lookout for that. If you like early stuff and free stuff and football, I mean, come on, who doesn't like football? But let's keep it going. Let's keep the memory train going. The memory train? Whatever. Let's just do this.
What happened was Sears was the big store at the time, and Sears Roebuck. And the way it would work is you would get this big, gigantic catalog at Christmas time. Well, you get it throughout the year, but at Christmas time it was always bigger. And you would flip through, and you would order stuff, and then you would have to go to the store to pick it up. So you would call it in, my mom would call it in, or go to the store and order the stuff, and then they would call us and say, hey, your order's in, you got a week to pick it up. And then you would go wait in this crazy line to go pick up your products that you got. So I saw the NES in there, and I said to my mom, can we get it? And she said, yeah. And she said, get that and pick a game out for you guys or whatever. So we did, but it was back ordered. And man, it went 6 months and still no phone call. And I'm like, man, it was bad. So finally I'm like, I gotta do something here. This is nuts. What do I do? So it was like a Saturday morning, and I started calling all the local stores.
How old are you at this point? Like, you're getting good grades, you're in school, but how old are you?
I would think I was probably 13.
Okay.
Right around there, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I got a vibe for what's going on, and I know what I'm doing. Because I think I was 11. 11 or 12, because I was in 8th grade.
Yep.
So I was right around that age. So I started calling like KB Toys and all the different stores that I thought might have them. So I called a KB Toy store, and they go, we got 2. And I'm like, oh my God, can you hold? Yeah, they're like, I'm like, can you please hold it? And they're like, no, you got to come get it. And I'm like, dude.
Flat out, no.
Yeah, they're like, no, we don't hold them. You first come, first serve. So now I have to go beg my mom to please take me over there. So I run out in the kitchen. I'm like, Mom, please. They got one there. Can we go get it? And she's like, yeah, get your brother. We'll go over. And I was like, oh, thank God. So now the whole time, the mall's probably 20 minutes from the house. I'm freaking out because I'm like, Mom, you got to go faster. And she's like, I'm driving the speed. Shut up. And she's like, if you don't stop, I'm going to turn around. You ain't getting it at all. So now it's even worse because I can't say anything about her speed she's driving. And I also have to worry about some jerk coming in and swooping up my NES. So we get to the mall. We run inside. And they got one. They actually sold one just before we walked in the door. So they had one left. We get it. My mom says, you know what? You guys waited a very long time for this. Get 2 games. So we got the original. We got the NES. It came packed with Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I got Punch-Out. My brother picked up Punch-Out, and then I got Zelda. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we walked out the store with like the holy trinity of NES games, you know.
What's that Jason thing? Did I not go back far enough to understand?
Jason! It's from Heavy Rain, so I'm so glad you asked that.
Okay,
it's from Heavy Rain on the PS3. It's just like this really, really bad part of the game where it was a weird game. Like it's French made, I believe. Like some of the translations and carryover, I feel, didn't really work out. And so there's this part where you're playing the part of a dad and you lose your son, and the son's name is Jason. So you're in this crowd and you're like screaming for him, but it's one of those press X for Jason. And everybody, even though you don't have to, there's no real prompt, you don't get any payoff for it. Everybody just racked on the X button. So you're just shouting Jason like constantly.
That's funny. That's hilarious. I had no idea what it was from. I'm like, why are they always doing this? Why is the outro so weird?
It's so stupid. Yeah, no, I don't even know. It's just one of those things. I think James Michaelajewski was actually he reminded me about it, and I'm like, I kind of want to have just a stupid thing to close out every show. Okay, at this time in the show, we're going to take a quick break from the memory lane, and I wanted to invite Antonio Guillen at BlueBlood02 to the show. And because, Antonio, you have always offered, since episode God knows when, I'm sure it's going to come in this episode, there you actually discovered the origins of Jason, by the way. That's your clip. And but you have always offered advice and help and man hours and design and just passion towards We the GamerCast and a few other projects that I've been involved in. I've always been very grateful. I've never taken it for granted. And to show you that, I wanted to thank you in front of everybody who's watching and listening. I want to thank you so much because the video version of this looks so great because of you. So I want to thank you so much, dude.
I seriously have no idea why you're taking the time. I mean, I'm honored, and it's awesome that you're, appreciative and everything, but I'm just seriously happy to do it. I mean, I've been trying to, find the people that I respect, that I look up to, that are doing, great content, obviously, like you, Bobby, Xbox Dive, like just so many podcasts and people, like Megadads, like I'm building those connections with you guys, and I really want to support you any way I can. And I come from the video production background, so seriously, I was happy to help with creating the video portion of it. I think when I was talking to you, I was like, I really want to keep that energy going that you always like open the shows with. Yeah, so man. I think it fits pretty well. And like, hat off to like Adam, like follow him on Twitter at The Art of Adam L, and he's
getting his spotlight. Don't worry about him. He's getting his time.
I want to just point at others. Seriously, yeah. I mean, you're doing all the hard work and heavy lifting, creating this amazing show, and it's just so amazing to, look at the community that you're helping to strengthen and build, and it's just awesome. I mean, thank you so much for the spotlight.
Okay, so enough of this like groping each other and patting each other on the back. Talk to me about because like. I would have had no idea where to start, and that's what I appreciate so much about you, Antonio, is that like you're able to take like this stupid concept of like, this is an interview show and here's the music, now go make a visual towards that. Like once you are able to create something out of nothing, that's where like my mind goes in, and that's where like I get to work together with creative people like you to go like that, let's tweak it. But like, was it a bathroom moment? Were you taking a shower? Were you looking up at the stars? Like what inspired you to have like the motion and to have the characters move in? Because I had no idea what to expect when you said you were up to something on this.
It's a marketing thing. I mean, that's what I went to school for. And like what you're really another better way to saying is you're really trying to find the character and the spirit of, what people are putting out there. So, I think We the GamerCast is all about, again, that high energy and making sure that you're, focused on variety, because that's what you're getting like all the time. And, I think that kind of comes through in the video we created. There's many different characters around, on the spectrum, and, something for everybody. And that's kind of what the show is all about. So when I try to help people, you're really you have to be familiar with the show and what they're trying to do and put out there. Sometimes they give me some initial like input of, hey, I'm kind of looking for this, looking for that. And honestly, it comes to me in my sleep. And, thank God I just get this like idea of how to put those two things together. Because, whenever you're creating something, in the visual medium, you want those two things to link, so you want the spirit of it and the visuals to all match up. And I think it does, which is great. If anybody out there needs help, again, follow me at BlueBlood02, BLUBLUD02. Go ahead and send me a DM. I love to support people who are trying to, make great content. And the weird thing about these video things is if you're doing like a show like this, you only need a little bit of help, and it just doesn't make sense for everybody to like gain all that knowledge to get the production experience to just make their one video intro. So I already have the knowledge, and I'd be happy to help you if I have the time. So, anybody out there who's looking for something special for, video content, I'd be happy to, you could ask me questions, or I could help out as much as I can. I just enjoy doing it. You're helping me out. I don't know why. I just feel like I'm built to do video game stuff and to do, intros and things. I have a lot of fun with it. And this one turned out great.
I'm so stoked about it. Even from the very first concept, like you threw the first little design at me, And I'm like, man, you just absolutely nailed it. And I can't wait to scream my first hey and have the cross dissolve in there. And like, obviously this has already happened in this episode. But if you guys haven't already checked out, if you're just listening to the show like you always do on iTunes and Google Play, check it out, please, on youtube.com/WeTheNerdy. This does not happen without Antonio. And we'll get to Adam and Josh later. They helped out as well. But Antonio, this starts with you, man. I am so appreciative for your help. And I said it back when you were on the show for the very first time, when somebody offers their help, you let them. And I wouldn't be able to do this without you, dude. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Sean. Keep up the great work.
So a little segment there of Antonio Guillen. Thank you again to Antonio. And we're going to head straight into maybe one of my favorites, certainly fan favorite, Ryan Hewlin. We're going to talk a little bit about writing fan fiction. I've talked to many people about how they leverage their creativity that's inspired by nerdism. So we're going to get right into that and head straight into a dad's dedicated section with Adam Leonard, John Wahl, the Mega Dads. Then we're going to go Nintendo Dads with Zach Erickson and Justin Masson, plus a special segment with my boy Jacob Rush from Nintendo Nostalgia. So here it comes.
Because I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. It was supposed to be like a 5-part book, but I only got the prologue up. And
why 5? How do you start with like knowing that there's going to be 5 pieces of the story?
Because I had like a whole arc. This I will.
I love this.
This I will share with you, Sean.
This is my trick into like knowing the exact story. By the way, there's little questions, there's little tricks, Ryan.
Okay, so I assume everyone is familiar with the general plot of Back to the Future.
Yeah,
it's my favorite movie series of all time.
Good
I'm really into sci-fi time travel. Anyway, Dr. Emmett Brown. We start out and he's it's in the year we left off, was it 1982?
Short.
Sure, just
it's your favorite movie.
Just
sorry.
Whatever time we find him in, and he some men start pulling up to his door of his big, grand estate, the Brown estate, and they knock on his door, and it's like time police.
Okay.
They're from a prison for time travelers, and they've come to take him away because someone is impersonating him like 50 years in the future, committing all of these crimes, and he has to. Him and Marty have to go back to the future to figure out.
You got Clear's name. That's a great arc, actually. The whole being accused, being framed, being accused of a crime you didn't commit.
Yeah, well,
good anchor.
Actually, it's just Marty. So Marty has to do this one on his own. He's contained in the prison for the time being until Marty can clear his name.
Mm-hmm.
But and in the time prison, I was gonna have a lot of nods and potential for a crossover. Like, I was going to have a gentleman in, like, a cell twirling a sonic screwdriver.
What?
Yes. And
what is that?
That's a reference to Doctor Who.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah, no, that's way outside my wheelhouse.
A great show, Sean. Check it out. It used to be on Netflix. Unfortunately, it's not anymore. But anyway, that's kind of the premise. I'm not going to spoil the rest of it, but it gets really intricate. It may or may not be Doc Brown that's doing this thing. It may be someone with cloaking technology.
Uh-huh. Can you do me a favor when you finish even part of it, like even just like a 5-minute scene, something that you love,
right?
Give it to me. And I will collect a bunch of podcasters. This is about as close to voice actors as I think we're gonna get our hands on, and we'll each play a part, and we'll tack it on to like the end of an episode or something like that. We'll have Ryan Houlihan's
that would be
Back to the Future fanfic, like 5-minute scene, acted out by the super indie community of podcasters.
Well, actually, my prologue is up.
There you go. We got to find somebody. We need people to be. I don't know who we're gonna cast.
I don't know.
Who gets to be Doc Brown? Who gets to be Marty? Oh man, this could be hilarious. Okay, so not to brag, but I've got Adam Leonard here at The Art of Adam L, and you might be wondering, what the hell is Adam Leonard doing here? He's a mega dad. You're an average dad, and you're right. But I wanted to give Adam a quick highlight, a quick spotlight, because if you're watching the YouTube video, this being the very first We the GamerCast on video, it looks spectacular, and it was all thanks to you, sir, Mr. Adam Leonard. I wanted to thank you so much for
I don't know
artwork.
about that, but sure.
You don't know about my thank you?
I don't know if I'm responsible for, your excellence.
Well,
but,
this is my way of like passing off. If anybody has a problem with it, then that's all.
I'll just sponge it up.
Yep, it's just like Josh Stapleton, where I get to say like he was the one who went through all of the clips and chopped out all the different segments. So if anybody doesn't like the choices, it's Josh.
This is where you can launch your complaints towards us.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Whatever. I'm married. I know what that's like.
Do you want to talk about like the drawings that are now featured on there? Like where did they come from? You provided a huge list of characters that I could choose from. Like this must be a collection that's been going on for a little while.
I've been building art for years and years and years. Some of it has been used for some of the art that, for example, that's in your intro, I used for a convention that I just attended called 2DCon, and I illustrated these characters and compiled them to a poster. A lot of that stuff that I made is just kind of for me. Drawing is what I do to chill, to relax, and of course to build up my skills. So as you're watching those little characters fly by, you're like, "Oh, that one sucks. That one sucks. That one's really great."
Stop it.
The great ones are recent.
Okay.
So you can kind of track like a timeline of my progress in your intro. It's kind of cool.
Was part of that progress like? Was it? I mean, I'm sure part of it is like the artistry, but also do you use like a digital screen to like? How do you actually create these images?
Right. Yeah. A couple of years ago, I bought myself what's called a Cintiq tablet, which is basically just a big iPad that you can draw on. Is kind of a way to simplify it. I used to draw all on pen and paper and pencils and all that kind of stuff, but once I started going digital, it was like a real eye-opening moment. And as I progress and as I continue to draw and make art for myself and for others, I refine, the tools that I'm using, the software that I'm doing. So right now I'm using a Cintiq tablet, and I draw everything in Photoshop.
Okay.
So it's kind of going back to freehand drawing. It's just on the screen, and I'm able to use a lot more cool little tools as I go. So hopefully I continue to learn and improve what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Well, I look forward to one day hopefully buying Link. Hopefully he will be into this. I hate thinking like you will do this because I really want to learn how to use this thing, and it would be really like I would have really thought that it was neat. What about talk to me about the transition from going from pen and paper to the digital? Like was it a fairly natural one? I would imagine that it's sort of frustrating that like something that you would have done so naturally and had done thousands of times over on pen and paper, now all of a sudden you're like, I just want to draw this line. Right. Why can't I draw this line?
A lot of it is just like learning to walk again. To steal a line from an awesome Foo Fighters song.
Nice.
When I first went digital, I didn't have the funds to buy anything fancy, so it was just like a touch pad that had no screen on it, and so I was illustrating the way I would on paper, but my eye had to look forward at a monitor. Whereas before you'd be looking down at the paper, you're looking at where your pen is hitting. When I first started going to digital, I had to retrain my eye to look ahead. Now that I've got this Cintiq, it's a little more natural where I can really get precise as I go to the screen. But honestly, the biggest the biggest change is coloring. I used to hate coloring with colored pencils or markers or paint or whatever. Like, I just couldn't stand it when I was using physical media. But now that I've gone digital, it's so much faster and so much more intuitive, and you can change things and, you know, adjust levels. So the fact that I've been able to bring color to my art in a way that I always wanted to but never was able to before with physical media is that's the biggest thing right there.
So I've talked to people on the show 1,000 times about leveraging their creativity that they're inspired through video games, either through writing. This is where I would really like to just surprise you with, and now we're going to jump into the Back to the Future fan fiction, but I unfortunately don't have that prepared.
Come on, I've been waiting.
Well, I really wanted it for this episode. It is coming, everybody. It's coming. I have not forgotten Ryan Hewlin. How would you recommend people, like, if this is something that people have been wanting to jump into, like, what's a good starting point for people who want to just draw? I just want to draw, man.
To draw illustration? Well, I would recommend somebody just get a couple of months of Adobe Creative Cloud. You don't have to buy the software outright anymore. Now you can just kind of rent it month to month or lease it or however you want to. So I'd say, you know, get yourself some Photoshop for a couple months. Get yourself a really cheap tablet and just kind of, you know, dip your toe into that digital medium, because it's way different. If you're a person who likes to doodle on pen and paper, and you want to get into that field, I would say just, you know, get yourself a really crappy Wacom tablet, you know, something on eBay or whatever, and get yourself a couple of months of Creative Cloud so that you can test out Illustrator and you can test out Photoshop. I mean, Creative Cloud, you can do, that's, you know, how we edit Megadads, is we use Adobe's audio system through there. So and you can do video editing, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, for a guy like me, I always like to be creative in a multitude of ways. Like, it's not just drawing, it's music and it's writing and it's video editing. So I would highly recommend somebody just, you know, try a couple months for Creative Cloud and see what it does for you.
That's a great answer, because, you know, I put it off as saying, like, for other people who might want to get into this, now I personally have the answer. So now I would like to really go ahead and do that. You mentioned Megadads. Where can people find all of the rest of the art? Also, before I get that, I also wanted to say that eventually, now that I've got all the tools and you've given me all the instructions, I would like to start adding my own illustrations in to join yours. So it'll be great to have, like, your masterworks of art fly by, and then mine that look like they were drawn with the left foot of my son with a pen and marker.
It's just like a scribbly line figure. And it's like, is that a penis that just went by?
It's a lion. Okay, so where can people find more of that amazing art, and what are the other things that you're doing that you want to let people know about?
Well, most of my stuff you can find on megadads.org. That's our website.
Org is what I say. Megadads.org.
Well,
org. You got to spell out the org.
We don't like to do it phonetically. Or you can check my personal art. I like to upload my stuff on my Twitter, which is @theartofadaml. I do a lot of in-progress stuff. Lately, I've just been putting up pictures of No Man's Sky. But when I do get to drawing, I like to put that up on my Twitter as well, so you can check out what I'm doing as I go.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you again. Really quick segment here. I just wanted to give you a quick shout-out and a thank you. And thank you. That is all.
You're welcome, and you're welcome.
Adam decided to get a PlayStation, and John decided to get an N64.
Oh, God. The console war is taking place in the house.
The console war in our house was epic. It was just unbelievable. We hated each other so much. Oh, my. You wouldn't believe the pointless fights we would have. It was just ridiculous. Absolutely absurd. Where we'd be like Crash versus Mario, and your controller sucks, and I got discs, and you got, you know, it's just like anything.
And you were adamant about it.
Oh, yeah. And looking back on it now, I'm like, man, Nintendo 64 was awesome.
Oh, that is hilarious.
And even as a kid, like, we're still living in the same house. You know, we're under the same roof. So we're playing each other's machines.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, Wave Race 64 is the best. And he's like, man, Resident Evil is the best. But then once we kind of realize that we're enjoying each other's console, it's like, yeah, but your little third arm on your controller sucks.
Yeah, you can't give in. You can't show signs of weakness.
Just, you know, dumb boy arguments. So video games were like a bonding thing, and also a way to to get under each other's skin.
Yeah, it was an early conversation piece, whether you knew it or not. Like, this is
Oh, yeah.
something that occupied your mind and everything. It's hilarious because usually the console wars are happening on the playground. So,
Yep.
I mean, like, what's happening when you guys go to school? Like, are you guys close? I imagine you're close in age.
Yeah,
So,
he's
like,
3
you're
years older
walking
than
to school, like, kind of bugging each other about video games, and you get there, and I'm sure you've got friends who are on one side of the console war versus the other, and then that takes on a whole shape. Like, this is... I haven't seen. Does this take form in the comic, in the Megadads comic? There has to be a flashback kind of episode.
Oh, we
And
haven't
just things
yet,
getting
but-
completely out of hand. Like, this is totally a South Park episode.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, this is incredible.
It was just kind of like absurd, and I would love to go back in time and kind of watch it from the outside, because like I said, we were living together and we were playing each equally.
Right.
I would play Nintendo 64 just as much as he would play PlayStation. So what was the fight about?
What
but
was
I think
it
when you're
about
a
it?
teenage I think when you're a teenage boy, you're just looking for something to fight about.
Sure.
Especially when it's your brother. Like, you just gotta fight with your brother because you're cooler than he is, right? No matter what.
Our comic strip selves, since they both get a little exaggerated, I think I'm a little bit more of the physical goofball, pratfall, buffoon humor, and he's a little bit more of the dry, sarcastic, smartass humor.
He's very cerebral.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where does the comedy come from for you? Like, were you guys just like sitting around the TV watching? Like, I imagine you guys watching like Monty Python because of the dry humor that comes in. Like, what are the comedy greats?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. George Carlin.
Oh, nice.
He's probably my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to say Bill Cosby.
The clean comic.
Growing up, huge Bill Cosby fan before he was a serial criminal,
serial rapist.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never slam your face into a big pile of Jello pudding ever the same ever again.
I can't even watch the Cosby
Was he
Show
talking
anymore,
about Jello pudding? Was there something hidden? Maybe he was telling us something all along.
Right. It was a cry for help this whole time, and nobody listened. I don't think we sought out to be like a funny show.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the show was born out of just the conversations that we would have all the time, anytime we got together. Mm-hmm. We would have those conversations in real life, anytime we got together, and annoy the crap out of our wives and our families. And we always chuckled, and we thought that we were hilarious.
Yep.
So we thought, let's maybe somebody else likes this style or our sense of humor. So let's record these conversations and throw that up there and see what people think.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Adam's episode because he sort of went over. He gave you a little bit of credit for starting the Facebook group back before it was even a podcast. Mm-hmm. But he said that you were the brains of the operation. Like, what exactly does that mean, to be the brains of the Megadads? Or is that even true? Maybe he's lying. Maybe that's the other reason I wanted to have you on, is just to fact check Adam a little bit. Where were you with Nintendo at the time? Were you diehard Nintendo fan? Were you lapsed Nintendo fan? Were you kind of like, where were you with your relationship with Nintendo when this idea came out?
It's funny because I go back, like, even when I was doing Infendo, I like, especially in the Wii era, I actually was very critical of Nintendo.
Yeah.
The idea of the Wii remote and nunchuck, I've never liked it. I think it's okay as a standard, as for Wii Sports, a Wii Sports controller, I think it's okay and I think they made it work for a lot of the games. But then I can't remember exactly. I think the Wii U must have been out by then. Yeah, it was. But I don't know. I've always kind of been hot or cold with Nintendo. And the funny thing about doing a show about Nintendo is that when I'm on my cold, like, I can never be 100% cold like I have been before. Right? There's not really an option to put my 3DS on the shelf and let it collect dust for 6 months. Yeah, because I don't have anything to talk about.
Cartoon picture of yourself in a Mario overall.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I think at the time I was probably pretty excited about it. Like, that would have been 2 years ago, which would have, I'm trying to think what games were out around then, but the Wii U had just recently come out, and there was a few. There was quite a few good games that were. It was exciting. There was like this sort of optimism at the time about the Wii U, like, all right, they're gonna pull through, man.
There was something about it,
right? Like there was some optimism there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But even at the time when we were trying to figure it out, we had kind of said, okay, well, how are we going to position ourselves? We don't just want to make another gaming podcast, because nobody cares about another just random gaming podcast. There's a million of them out there. Not to disparage people who are doing gaming podcasts, but that's just, we wanted to do something that was a little bit different and serve a specific niche. And we kind of looked at, well, what about like gaming, like a gamer dad sort of thing. And I specifically was like, well, I don't really follow the like Xbox and Sony enough to be able to, competently do a show about them. And not only that, but as a dad and as a student, I can't really afford either money or time to follow all three of them either. Right.
Totally.
So we're like, all right, let's just stick to Nintendo, and then we went with it. And we're like, well, what are you going to call it? It's like, well, Nintendo Dads sounds like it's probably got pretty good SEO, like that's that, and it's pretty self-descriptive. So let's just go with that.
My dad, as I mentioned, didn't live with us. He lived out in Ontario.
Okay.
And not to get too like Larry Kingish, but
that's the goal. One day.
Yeah, sure, right. Get some tissues. I got a box of tissues here in the office. But he, I didn't see him very much at all, and he didn't kind of commit to, didn't really follow up on a lot of commitments. But I remember he asked me for, I think it was either Christmas or my birthday. He said, "What do you want for your birthday?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I would really like Super Mario 2."
Nice.
Right. And so he's like,
Did
okay.
you know how different it was at that point, or
no, I just knew it was
just the next one?
That was all I knew, right?
Cool. Yeah.
So, okay, fair enough. I'll see what I can do.
Awesome.
And I think Christmas had came or my birthday had came and left, and nothing showed up. And it was kind of, it is what it is. Let's move on, right? But I remember one day a package did show up. And it was in that old, like, parcel brown paper, right? We used to send parcels. And it was beat up. It looked like it had gone through the ringer a couple of times. And it got to my house and it says my name. And my mom said, yeah, of course, open it up. And I open it up. And there it is.
Yeah.
There was Super Mario 2 in what appeared to be the most beat up Super Mario box I'd ever seen.
Damn it.
But it was so, like, that for me has always been such an important memory.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
That I don't know why, but that was something that to me was really important, is that this thing did show up eventually, and it showed up eventually. Whatever condition it was there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Zach's probably listening to this and is kind of psychoanalyzing my statements to that. But when it arrived, like, it was just this kind of like, oh, wow, this is really incredible. And as a kid, of course, putting it and playing it. But even with that, the memory says, I mean, it's such a different game. Yeah. Right? It's such a different game from everything else that Mario is. And then to have those kind of memories associated with it were quite powerful. Is to a point that any virtual console I get now, I always buy Mario 2.
I haven't had that moment. I haven't had this like, oh my gosh, there's this thing and I have to take care of it. And it's just, I don't know how else to describe it other than it just is. It's just, this is the way that life is. We have prepared as best that we could, and now he's here. Like, maybe this is just kind of penting up some terrible emotions that one day I'm going to explode. But I haven't had that freak out moment yet. And I'm wondering, like, did you have, not that necessarily has to be a freak out, but did you have kind of like a significant realization or moment or thought when Riley came along that changed things for you?
Well, I'm glad you asked this, because I think this can segue us down to some deeper conversation here. No, we didn't actually. Like, my wife and I we were so anxious and excited for Riley to get here, and we were a little bit nervous, but
of course, yeah.
In general, we were really happy. Sean, I don't know if you know this, but I mean, you may know a little bit. I do know. But like, Riley's not our first child.
Yeah, man.
So I'll try not to cry on your show, but it's that's why I love your show, is that you can talk about games and you can get deep and real with things. And
I'm gonna try not to cry too. Like, let's be real.
Like, Riley, we had a daughter before her, and it was her name was Judah, and basically early And it was just, I won't give you all the details because of our whole life. Everything was a mess financially, job loss, moving in with parents, things like that, moving out. The one bright spot of that year back in 2014 was our daughter, we got pregnant. And that was really awesome. And we found out, gosh, it was like right before, it literally was the day before my birthday that she went in for an ultrasound. Well, we thought she woke up bleeding, and we thought something was wrong. So we went to the hospital.
How far along?
We were, I think, 3 months in.
Okay.
We went in, we saw the baby, saw the heartbeat, everything was good. And then they called her back later that day and said, we just want you to come back in the next day, come back in, just to meet, because the doctor wasn't there. We just wanted to talk with the doctor and talk about a couple things. And we're like, okay. So her and her mom went the next day. I was at work. My wife calls me, or I think I called her. Either she called me or I called her or whatever. I was on my way home or something like that. I was like, how'd the meeting go? How's our baby? And she held together the phone and she didn't tell me anything. And
take your time, man. It's all right.
It never gets easier to tell.
It helps, though.
Yeah. Okay, basically, she was diagnosed with this thing called anencephaly. And what anencephaly does is basically it happens in the very first week of conception. So you don't know till the baby's older.
Yeah.
And the baby, so what happened was her skull, I'm trying to say it right. Her skull didn't form all the way. And that happens in the very first week, so everything can build in the baby. There's a little gap in the back of her skull. So her brain would be exposed to embiotic fluid and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was we were faced with a big decision, and my whole life, especially growing up in the church, I don't believe in abortion or anything like that. And the doctor gave us the option he said, either you can abort and you can try again in a month or so and be on your way, or you can carry to term. And to be honest, we were very scared, and I still don't support abortion today, but at the time, I can say you never know what you're going to do until you're in a situation. And
that's right.
My wife and I, we were scared because the initial time to get the information that our daughter was going to die was basically just as the initial, it stung just as the initial death would, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we called our pastor, we talked, we told our church, and a lot more crap happened in between there when we decided this, but we went so far to we met with the abortion doctor and we scheduled it, and we were going to have a ceremony and just because we didn't want to go through the pain of holding our child lost.
Yeah.
And my wife, she talked to God and prayed that you got to show me clearly that you want me to change my mind if you want me to. So what we did, and he did. I mean, long story short, he did. And I just, it's crazy. Just people that I didn't know in my life. I met them. I worked at a gym at the time, and I met a couple women separately. They didn't know each other, and they they knew God, and they were Christians, and I met these people out of nowhere, and they were exactly people in our time, for that time of our life, that we needed to meet, and they helped us through everything. And we decided to keep, and we canceled everything, and we were going to honor her life as best as we could, because we decided it's not our decision if a baby can make it or not, because we prayed and we hoped for a miracle. And Judah's life, she was created by God, and her life mattered. Yeah. And it wasn't our decision to say that you can't make it because there's a chance you're going to die. Because there are cases, there are children out there that were diagnosed with this and they're alive, but the chances are very slim.
Yeah, man. So
we took the pregnancy and we honored her life. We went out that next week and we bought, we went to the pumpkin patch and bought pumpkins for all three of us. So that's what we did, and I apologize. Can't understand me well. It's
not at all.
It's a tough story to tell, and it's
no, you're very brave to do that, and then to talk about it as well. I can't imagine that decision, and obviously, the conversations that you and your wife would have had, they've brought you closer together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Every step of the way, whether it's you getting married, that brings its own complications. Then living together brings its own complications. This is on a whole another level. Yeah. So do you look at it that way, and that this I think that's what you mean when you say that your daughter's life mattered, because she was a member of the family. She is a member of the family, and she brings everybody closer together. That's how I look into it, man. And I would be lying if I said that I wasn't thinking of you guys when Lincoln was coming into the world, thinking how lucky we are to have a healthy, beautiful baby boy. God, this is a freaking cry fest. We're gonna get out of here in a second. But I'm really happy that you shared that story, because I have been thinking of you guys a lot lately, and I know how proud a dad you are, and I know how proud a dad I am. And I guess in a way, this sort of loops back to my original question, that it's not really a moment, but a collection of moments. So I was putting this episode together over the course of a few days, and when this clip came up, I was actually holding Lincoln, and I just had to take a little bit of a break. And I just wanted to quickly thank Jacob once again for sharing that story, and for elevating this show to something else, something I never saw coming. And Justin Masson there as well with the story of his dad. And I've come to be very surprised at what we're all willing to share with each other. And I just think that I take it as a good sign that there's more to this show and to us than just the video games and just what we're playing. And I think that's what has given the show a little bit of longevity. And it certainly gives me that excitement to wonder what is next. And I'm gonna try and break this up a little bit. We're not gonna have a whole cry fest here. I hope that was okay to just kind of revisit that for a little bit. But I can't think of anybody else to take us out of that mode and that mood than Jace Plays Games. There's like an intimidation factor that I wanted to dive into. Like, is this a persona that you just like to fuck with people? Or is it like, have you always just been kind of like pushing buttons everywhere you go?
It's about half and half.
Okay. Because I appreciate the, let's play it up, it's the internet, and let's see how far we can take things.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it's based on the actual me, but it is, in classic internet fashion. Yeah. Although I feel like I don't do... Mine is different than some of the other trolls out there.
I agree with you, because if that weren't the case, you would not be on the show.
Exactly.
I would have blocked you a long time ago.
That was part of whenever we didn't do the show last week, or when I got skipped over one week. I was like, man, I just think Sean's seeing my Twitter, and he's like, I don't want this guy on the show.
Not at all.
I have a backlog so high that I got to go through it. And so I cannot finish that backlog if I get more and more new games. And so, I think a lot of people have the current problem right now in terms of, just getting more and more games and piling up. It's just, there's got to be 1 year or a good amount of time, maybe 3 months, that you just got to sit down and you got to go through that backlog. Because, you bought that game, you got to go back. And then part of the reason why I want to go back to Dragon Age, or I I got too many games, man. It's just it's a really bad habit.
So I'm trying really hard not to like jump in because I have done literally the exact same thing. And for the same reason being that the backlog is a major situation. And then when I was younger, I actually took the same thing. I took a year off of buying games. I'm like, why am I paying full price for games when they just end up being cheaper? So I set myself back a year and then just ended up buying games for $20. I wish you the best of luck. The plan did not work out well for me. What ended up happening was I took the year off and then I had a slew of games that I felt like I missed out on. They were all dirt cheap, so I bought them all. And so I ended up like doubling down at least 2 times over on my backlog because I'm like, oh yeah, this game is half off or this game is super cheap. I would go for like Black Friday sales, or for Canadians, it's the day after Christmas is a massive sale. And I'd pick up like 12 games for $100 or something. Like, it was a good deal back then. So, best of luck. But I definitely connect with the sentiment of just trying to get a handle on those games. And I love the way that your bet works out as well, because technically those games you pre-ordered were supposed to come out in 2016. So it's not your fault that they're actually going to be released in 2017.
Yeah.
What about Mass Effect, man? Like, what about now? I'm panicking for you. Lots of games like, Horizon Zero
Dawn. Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And you're gonna be done school. This is a terrible time.
Yeah. So right now I'm finishing up my master's degree in engineering.
What?
Yeah.
What is with this show, man? I just like these people like, oh, I play video games and oh, I love this. And by the way, I can do calculus in my sleep. Like, what is happening? I need to know more about how did you, like, cause I didn't even know engineering was a thing until I was in university for my marketing degree. And I'm like, what are all these smart kids doing? And how are they time traveling and managing to get 26 hours of stuff done in a 24-hour day? How do you get this path to engineering? And also what kind of engineering are you in school for?
It's mechanical engineering, but I mean the engineering I'm doing, like my research is in plasma and its effect on biomaterial like water and stuff.
Oh, I am blown away. Keep going, man. Keep talking. What am I talking for?
It's
You're
not
the
that
smart
interesting.
one.
Trust me.
It is super. I am blown away. This is a moment.
Well,
this is awesome.
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of fell into it because when I got out of high school, like my first 2 years in high school, I was like not a really good student. I was like average 2.0 GPA and stuff like that. And then midway through my sophomore year, I kind of just switched it up and I was like, well, you know, I was kind of going downhill like with my grades and stuff. And I was like, you know what, let me try to turn this around. Let me try to be better. And then I started focusing.
But were you grasping onto concepts and just like didn't care? Like were you distracted by all your MBA?
maybe. Yeah, I think I was probably. Well, I think it was just the fact that I was trying to fit in, trying to figure out. I was like trying to fit in, trying to find my group of people, and I was struggling with that. And I think I was focusing too much on that, and I wasn't really focusing on like schoolwork and stuff. And then I remember clearly in Spanish class, I was really like when I was younger, I was really impolite, and I talked back to my teachers and everything.
Yeah. So,
at one time, I was talking to my friend in class, and while the teacher was teaching. And she tells me like, you know, stop talking. And I told her like, no, or something. I talked back to her really.
I can't imagine this at all, to be honest with you. You seem like the nicest person on the planet. There's no way.
Yeah, I was like a big jerk back then. And then she kicked me out. And then on the way to like what they called it like RC, or I think that's what it was called. It's basically where all the bad kids went. It was like a detention for the rest of the time the rest of the time there was class left. So I was in there, and then I was just like, man, this sucks. I gotta do better.
Is this not like the greatest thing? I'm recording these intros, and I'm putting them in, listening to the clip, and then I'm coming back to you guys to record. So this is about as like live as it gets, I think, for all the different snippets here. So I'm really enjoying. I feel like I'm listening along with you. I'm having an absolutely great time. So we're gonna keep things moving. We're gonna get out of the geniuses and out of the insanely smart people that I've met and move things into the romances a little bit and good vibes. So we've got Ray Osorio coming in. Oh, by the way, the geniuses, Jace Plays Games, obviously, Garret Bland and Alejandro Buendia. Thanks, guys, for your time and those clips. And I'll also take this quick moment to just really apologize, guys. This was so hard to choose clips and episodes to highlight. I wish that I could just make this like a 10-hour thing and highlight everybody. I really, really love, without every single one of you, if you're listening and you're like, where's my clip? Or maybe it's not in here. Blame Josh Stapleton. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Josh. I didn't really mean that, but I'm still leaving this in. I could cut that out. Let's move this along. I just wanted to really, really apologize if your clip isn't in here, if your episode isn't in here. That is not a reflection on how grateful I am to you and for your episode and for your time. So I thank you. There's not really a good way to move on from that, but we'll try it this way. Romances and good vibes. Ray Osorio from Nerd Overdrive, as well as Lee and Becky Navarro and Nikki Powell. The greatest engagement stories ever, back to back. I think that's the way this is gonna go. And then maybe some me and Chelsea right after that. So I'll see you guys in a bit after some more of these clips coming soon. This is sort of a radio thing. This is not a radio thing.
Extra Life fits in my life because as a child, I grew up in Puerto Rico for part of my life.
Okay.
We moved to the States when I was about 7, almost 8 years old, and then from there I got really sick, and I was actually we moved to Indiana, and from there I had to go to Riley's Children's Hospital of Indianapolis, and they were a Children's Miracle Network hospital. So big part of this, the reason why I Extra Life was because of the care and the doctors and the nurses and everyone I got to meet in my experience when I was a sick kid, over the course of, 2 to 3 years in Indianapolis, and seeing the kind of care and what they do for kids. It was like a no-brainer when I first heard about it. I heard it supported Children's Miracle Network hospitals. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to do it. Let's do it. And without hesitation, I did it.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that you're going to be playing games to help support the kids, right? It's kind of a win-win.
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely one of my passions always as a kid was always like I got really involved with like computers and gaming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As a kid being sick and everything like that, couldn't really go outside much, couldn't do too much. So gaming was kind of like my escape out of my like hospital room or out of my bedroom and things like that. So I remember back in the day I had like when I couldn't have like a TV or anything, I had my Game Boy, but it was always like my NES or my SNES, stuff like that. And I was a Nintendo kid. So I was always playing my games and stuff like that whenever I couldn't get out and about. And, not to say I didn't go outside and I didn't have a normal childhood, like playing baseball with my friends or football or basketball, stuff like that. But there were times when I was too sick to go outside, so stuff like that. So that was the whole driving force behind me starting Extra Life, and then just the whole positivity factor behind myself and the community and things like that. Which actually the Phoenix kind of has a double symbolism for me, because back in 2014 I started going through a lot of medical struggles and things like that. And so in talking with Becky, my best friend and also one of our co-hosts on Nerd Overdrive, she's like, you know what, you can do it. You just have to rise above your situation or your circumstances and you can do it. So I know you probably noticed what they started to call the obnoxious positivity on my part. AKA you can credit Kiku of the Neek podcast for that, Chris Kiku, for that. Is my whole thing is always rise above.
So this is definitely an interesting origin story. I was actually 3 months pregnant at the time. I was going out to meet up with some friends, for a non-alcoholic New Year's Eve, because clearly at that point in time I was not in any position to. Mm-hmm. I wasn't actually planning on meeting someone to be with. And it just so happened that Lee and I hit it off to such a degree that it was like that night, I knew that it was
immediately.
Him. Just immedially. Like Lee. It was just that instant connection.
I mean, I felt it, but you're already taken, so I get it. I understand the power.
And it was really over apples to apples. We were playing apples to apples that night, and I think what solidified it was the Star Trek reference in there.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Do you remember?
It was something about Captain Kirk. I remember laying down Captain Kirk, and it was Lee's round. And that was really my, feeler card just to see. And I remember him, I think he actually picked that one because he knew it was me somehow.
The other card was the green card was touchy feely, and everybody put down either Michael Jackson, O.J. Simpson.
Good God!
Grave robbers.
How do you remember this?
And I tell you,
I think it was like Bill Clinton or something.
Yeah,
like
Bill
that.
Clinton. Oh, and Bill Cosby.
Wow.
Bill Cosby.
But that was before the Bill Cosby
We didn't
scandal.
know yet.
We didn't know yet, but
It's funny because on your Twitter account, the first word, and I only know this because I also know this because we're in the same kind of funny group, but first word on your Twitter account is engaged. So
Brand new.
Yes, Brent. So congratulations. That's
Thank
really
you.
exciting. So I'm curious, how did it happen? What's the story of the engagement?
Are we recording this?
Of course.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure because I'm like, you might want to get this for your podcast because
Yep.
it's pretty good. So our anniversary was April 15th, and it was our 10-year anniversary. So we've been together for quite some time. I had been hounding him all week, like, you better plan something. You better like take me out to dinner. Like, I want something awesome. It's 10 years. No like McDonald's, even though I wouldn't mind like some chicken nuggets and gaming all night. Like that would have been totally fine. Like if that's the plan that you made, that's the plan that you made. Like that's fine. Just like make a plan.
Was it just that week that you're hounding him?
Yeah, so he's off.
Not the
all
10
week.
years before at all.
Oh, well, okay, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, no, for like 10 years I've been hounding him. But like specifically, our anniversary's coming up. You have the whole week off, like plan something. And I came home Friday, which just happened to be our anniversary, and there's a letter in the mailbox addressed to me from him with our address on it. I was like, what is this? So I opened the mailbox or the letter, and it's a crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
And it's Zelda themed. And so, or no, it was a word search. The easiest thing first. So I do the word search. The word search leads me to, oh my God, it leads me somewhere in the house to like find a chest. And the chest is like a Zelda chest.
Yes.
So I open up the chest and there's another. Yeah, right? So there's a little 1-up, like the green mushroom, you know?
Oh my
The
God, yes.
one. So we had a little one in there, which was a lifeline for me for the rest of the night. If I need help, I give him the lifeline. He gives me some insight.
What do you need help with? What's going to happen?
Clues. Apparently, there's more clues coming. So I do another clue that's in the box, and it leads me to our backyard where there's another box that has a lock on it. And inside the first box there's a second like trivia thing that I had to do, which we have this big keyblade, and so it led me to that. And I got on the Keyblade, and the Keyblade had a lockpick set. Well, we recently learned how to lockpick with one of those clear ones that you can buy with the set off of Amazon.
I've never heard of this thing.
Well, you can. They're kind of illegal, but... So I had to lockpick this second chest, and I opened that, and it's got more. He took a few... The Witness. Have you played that game yet?
Not yet. I'm a little scared of it. The whole
Don't
puzzle thing, I think my brain is going to explode if I play
I thought
this.
mine would too, and it's still here. So I'm doing pretty good at it.
I'll ask you about that in a bit.
So the Witness puzzles, right? You have to solve these puzzles. They're super simple, but not simple at all. Like straightforward, but not straightforward puzzles. So he drew some of them out that I had to solve live, like in person. I can't just use the video game, so I had to like map it out like you would with pen and paper.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
to create these puzzles, were they actually like ripped right from the Witness, or did he create his own?
He specifically made them because they spelled out something.
Come on.
Yeah. So they spelled out sword, and we have a Zelda sword. So I came into the Zelda sword and found something else, and then there was like a black light in one of the chests, which led to like on our wall behind this big Zelda, of course, map that we have, like another clue, which was like a Riddler clue. So on the back of one of the papers, was next of a question mark. Yeah, he's like so good at this. He's been planning it for months.
Like
so
9 years.
Right? Like he's been spending our entire relationship up to this point. So it leads me to this bookshelf that he built last year, right? It's this Zelda-themed bookshelf, if you catch my drift. It's all Zelda-themed. And he carved in Cerulean all around the border a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he also carved a key into it, like to decipher this.
Come on.
So I could have deciphered this 9 months ago when he finished the bookcase, and so it's been sitting in front of me in Cerulean, Nikki, Will You Marry Me, right in front of my face, like literally it's 3 feet to my right now.
Oh my God, that is the best thing I've ever heard.
It's the greatest thing. And he recorded it all in his GoPro. We had our friend Christian, he's at Pixel Brave on Twitter. He does amazing YouTube videos. I sent him everything and had him like cut it up for me and make this awesome like 3-minute just compilation of the whole night. So
I need to put that link on there. Oh my god, I need to go look at that. That is the best. So, like, are you sort of regretting not boning up on your Hyrulean? Like maybe practicing your translations and your conjugations.
Yeah, what had happened if I would have like solved this ahead of time? And he's like, you could have gotten a proposal 8 months ago. I'm like, oh, duh.
Oh man, imagine being able to like go back to every time you were hounding him, and he'd be like, well, I sort of already did, but you haven't noticed.
And I'm like, for the last 8 months, I've been like, yeah, whenever we get engaged, if that happens. And this, like, he's been planning this for a while. It's been right in front of my face.
I'd love to have like some sort of way, like I wish life came with like a montage at the end of every year that you could just kind of like see these moments, like almost like the end of Usual Suspects, where you can kind of look back and see like piece everything together. Like every time you were bothering him about getting engaged, and he's probably like pointing off just to like to the bookshelf and everything.
Like a little thought bubble goes up in his head, like bookshelf. Ha ha ha. We've even had a few friends. Amanda, who does Lipstick Nerds with me, she's been to the house with another one of our friends, and they love Zelda too, and they've seen like the deciphering because they have something on their refrigerator that's like Hyrulean or whatever, and it has and so they've seen the language, and they know that they can decipher it, and they've seen the bookshelf. So it's like none of them knew what it was because they don't know how to do it, but it was in front of like all of us.
Like, time is running out for the gaming time for us.
Oh, why is that?
Well, you tell me. I feel the same.
Oh, is it because I am with child?
You're with child.
I am with child.
This is me. Well, I wanted to have you on the show for a long time. You're like, we did a whole thing for a while. And you're like, I want to be on the show. And I'm like, no, you're never going to be on the show. It's never going to happen. Even though, like,
you literally said that. That's the best part.
But it was after I said, yeah, you can come on the show. So I was messing with you a little bit. I needed the timing to be right. I don't know. I don't know. I wanted like episode 50 was like, it sounds good. So now we have like 2 weeks in a row of just Capri goodness. Like 49.5 was all me. Now it's all you. So yeah, I wanted you on for 50, and then for like this thing that we've known about since the day after my birthday.
It's been so hard not to share with everyone. I've been pretty bad at sharing with people, though. I have to say, I probably told more people than I should have.
I've been like openly judging children's names in front of people. Like my boss was showing me like the results for his kids' hockey tryouts, and there's all these names, and I'm like, Cole with a K? I'm like, that's dumb. Because he was reading, I'm like, Cole's actually a pretty sweet name. It was Koal. I'm like, no messy...
Interesting.
No messy spelling.
People like that, though, because they want their kids' names to be...
They want their kids to
classic,
have a lifetime
but then have, like, a weird spelling.
Although Sean isn't, like... It's just one of those names that can be spelled in, like, 20 different ways.
Yeah. That's different, though.
I guess.
Chelsea as well.
But they, with the EY.
Yeah.
I was damned to... Well, that's the whole reason I say, like, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. So, yeah. Not Sean like Sean White, that carrot top. I don't even know. So, we are at the end. We announced.
Yeah, we're going to have a baby, player number 3.
Yahoo!
Which really, you know...
Look how pumped we sound. We should have done this at the beginning, because we're kind of like, okay,
I was just thinking about how our kids, so, like, we're obviously super pumped about this. Like, this, having a baby, as it turns out, is not the easiest thing. Like, it took some time. And so we're super pumped about it. Yeah. But what I'm not pumped about is the fact that I think about my cousin, my Auntie Cheryl's daughter, who last story is my Auntie Cheryl really wanted Rebecca to be, like, this, like, super over the top. I don't really know what Cheryl was expecting, because Rebecca is, like, this super smart, just awesome girl. Like, she's, like, the kid every parent just wishes they had. But Cheryl's like, you should just sneak out. Like, why don't, like, why don't you just sneak out and have some fun? And when Rebecca, I think, was 3, they went to Toys R Us. Yeah. And Cheryl insisted that Rebecca really wanted an Easy Bake Oven. And Rebecca, being this really mature, smart kid, said, like, no, I don't really need that, Mom. Yeah. And Cheryl said, no, you need it, and put it in the cart. Yeah. So this is how I picture our kids with video games, is like, no, you want to play Mario. Like, here, let's just play Mario Kart together. No, Mom, I would like to study mathematics right now. And I'll be like, nerd!
I need to memorize my multiplication tables, and then I'll go play Minecraft. No!
Well, so that's the tone of my voice, is the worried of like not having a child that will be into video
Especially
games.
if we name him Lincoln.
Yes. Or Ellie.
Or Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie's a front runner too. I like Ellie. Or Miles.
Yeah, that's not really a video game. Zelda and Mario if we have twins.
It's
there we
not
go.
Zelda. No, Robin.
Or sorry, Link and Zelda if we have twins.
Yeah, Lincoln shortened to Link. I think is pretty sweet, which we learned, of course, from Prison Break.
Yes. Great show, by the way. You
Yeah.
all should watch it if you haven't.
Yeah. First 2 seasons.
They're all pretty good.
All right, do you want to be done?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're having a baby. Yay!
Echo Team, go!
Foxtrot.
Yeah, so everybody's good, and then they give you kind of a heads up. By the way, we might need to push him back up because he's
Yes.
pretty far down.
So one of the nurses comes, I think it was a nurse, says, like, just so you know. And, like, apparently I'm going to feel that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, great, you know.
You're going to feel a little
I
pressure.
made all that effort to get him down that way, and now you're just going to reverse it and probably cause me just as much pain doing it.
And so I don't know if you felt this, but the way that this manifests itself was, and I've described this to you before, but for the listeners, if anybody's ever had like their oil changed at like just one of those Lubex kind of when you drive up and they change, you're still in the car and they change your oil, like they shook like your whole body. It would like, they obviously had you opened up, and I can just imagine the two people, like one end trying to pull and the other end, the other person
Well, they didn't have to
pushing.
push, as it turns out.
Well, that's surprising to me because your entire
so,
body,
anyway.
your entire body was just like moving like crazy. And then finally
I don't
it
remember that.
stopped. I remember that so well. And then finally that stopped, and you could see the operation in the reflection of the lights overhead.
Yeah, so when I got there, there's like these big, whatever, OR lights above me that
Yeah.
are, whatever, chrome looking, like between the light bulbs, and I could actually see my body.
Pretty
like,
decent reflection.
Well, and I could see it perfectly at that point. And
Yeah.
so I told them, I'm like, I'm not very squeamish, but maybe I shouldn't see my operation. Like, I don't know. So they moved the light, but I could still kind of see it. So I made the decision at that point that this is pretty cool. If I don't want to watch it, I can look away.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll just let them leave the lights as it is. So I saw them actually take him out of me.
Right, that's what I was going to get to. Yeah.
Which was pretty neat. I'm glad I got to see that. Like, because
Yeah.
I feel like I missed out on that part because I didn't have a bathroom.
Not that you'd really see him come out the other end, but
no,
like,
but they usually take him out and they hold him up
totally
right away.
different.
And
Yeah.
so I feel like I kind of got that a little bit.
yeah. So it comes out, you can see him come out,
Yeah.
and you don't hear anything.
Yeah. Well, I think they're actually maybe preventing him from crying at this
Yeah,
point.
but do you know that at this time?
No, I'm
Are
just
you
nervous
freaking
in
out?
general. I'm not freaking out, but I'm like waiting for that cry. Like,
Yeah.
here we go. And it
Yeah.
felt like 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
obviously it was probably 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then they, they suction him and then
get
they
all
let
the
him
poop out of
breathe.
his
Yeah, get all the
nose.
poop out.
Yeah.
And then he wails, and then they tell you to go over.
But when he wails, that's it.
Yeah.
It's officially over. You've crossed the finish line.
Yeah.
And you just like, I don't know how to describe it, but you were like, we were both like overcome. Like that
Yeah.
was, there he is. Like you did it.
Yeah, I get emotional thinking about it.
Aw. But now he's here.
Hugging my boob.
So this time you're still strapped down. Baby's out screaming his.
I know.
his
All I
head off.
want to do is not be strapped and have the baby next
And
to
they
me.
call me over. They're like, Dad,
Yeah.
come see. And I look at you and I go, what do you want me to do? Because I feel bad that you're strapped in and you can't see him. And you tell me, no, go ahead.
Well, no, I wanted someone like to be with him like
Yeah.
for those first moments, and I knew it can't be me, so
Yeah.
it definitely needs to be you. Like someone needs to be over there to
Yeah.
see him for the first breaths of his life.
Yeah.
And then you scream over to me because we think we're having a 9, maybe 10-pound baby at this
Yeah.
point because he's overcooked by 6 days. So we're told 9 pounds, but now at this point he's probably 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And then you shout over, he's only 7 too. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, it's almost depressing that I couldn't get him out too. Like, obviously that wasn't the reason, but it's still like, he's so small. Like, I feel like I could have got him out.
And immediately, I think he's obviously adorable.
Of course. Well, he is pretty adorable.
But his head was real messed up. So that is pretty awesome to just go from, hey, we're going to have a baby, to here's how it came out. That, like, I'm pretty sure that's not exactly how the time lapse happened, but I love going back to listen to those episodes with Chelsea, and it's kind of nice to document that sort of thing. Like, I wouldn't suggest that everybody has to have a podcast to do that sort of thing, but some way, I think that was pretty nice. And to be able to revisit that in this episode has been amazing. Again, it's on video, by the way. If you're not already watching, youtube.com/WeTheNerdy. Thanks to patreon.com/MakeUsBetter. Little mid-show plugs here, everybody. That's why this is video. We're very close to our next goal, which would bring some of these guests back. 2 shows per month will be dedicated to previous guests if we reach that $150 mark. We're going to keep things going. We talked a little bit about romances, real-life romances. We're going to move right along into men on the internet and meeting each other and having relationships blossom. We're going to have Dave Moore, Johnny Casino. He was John Beeler back then. We're going to have also moving into men in service with Chris Burdo and Mr. Ben Butler.
I always love talking to new people on the internet. I mean, you can ask the Nintendo dads; they say the same thing every time I come on their show. They're like, "You're glowing," or "You're like so excited." I'm like, "That's because I on my shows I don't usually get to talk about Nintendo the same way. Like on this show, I'm like I get to talk about just video games in general versus like, you know, I do a Rock Band show about Rock Band, so I'm, you know."
Like the game Rock Band?
Yeah, like the game Rock Band.
Even now, you're well outside of the bubble of Rock Band. I don't know if you realize this.
Best Amiibo story ever, though, was the Jigglypuff release.
Yes.
So, Target exclusive. Mm-hmm. We're all freaked out at that point. That's like absolute mania nonsense before they actually got the stock levels right where we can just get whatever we want. Mm-hmm. Which was what makes it seem like Amiibo aren't a big deal, but they still completely are.
I think it's a mistake. I don't want to derail this too much, but I think they need to go back to how they unrolled it. Like they rolled it out first.
Oh yeah,
make it
bit.
tough. Just a little bit.
Don't make it impossible. Like 6 months later, when things are out, like I should be able to get them.
Yeah.
Right. Like Villager, like reprints, but man, like the first wave should be like limited. Mm-hmm. So I'm laying in bed and we're like, God, we got to go to Target late. Like we definitely, like they don't open till like 9 or 8 a.m. I don't remember. Right. Like they're not doing a midnight release. And I'm like, okay, but we got to sleep because I got to go to work. Like,
got to pay the bills. I need to eat.
Yeah. I got to buy these Amiibo. Like they don't just, I don't have to just be at Target at whatever. I have to actually pay for these. So I'm laying there and I'm like, I'm going to go to sleep. And I'm having a hard time sleeping because I'm just stressed out about it. Like, I'm like, I got to have Jigglypuff. Laying there. Fiance cares just as much as I do at this point because everybody cared, right? Like, she's not so much into it anymore because, like you said, they need to bring back the craziness.
Yep.
But I'm laying there. We hit like 2 a.m. And she's like, she goes, Dave, wake up. I'm like, what? Like, what? What could it possibly be? She's like, there's lines outside of Target and whatever, like out like 40 miles away from us. Like, not our Target. But she's like, they're doing news coverage on Facebook of lines waiting outside. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Oh my God. I would have thought it'd be too late by that point.
You would think 2 a.m. would be too late, but it's not. Right?
But so, I mean, like, if people are already spreading the news about lines, I'd be like, well, if I get in the back of this line, I'm shit out of luck.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, it's 2 a.m. If there's already lines, we're too late.
Yeah,
she's like, but we gotta go just in case.
I love it.
So we hit Target by like 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my God.
There's nobody there.
Oh no.
Nobody at all.
Where did this come from? What is this lie?
Well, no,
what is the root of this evil lie?
It was the farther away Targets had lines already, right? I'm like, but we're all so close to this. Everybody going to this Target is not going to come this early. Mm-hmm. That one makes sense because it's further away from people, right? Like they're like, we got to make sure we're there because that Target serves a further wide radius.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay. So we get there. We brought lawn chairs. We're prepared. We got, but there's nobody here. Nobody.
Grab our Target waiting in line kit where we have like our lawn chairs and our iPad games.
There's nobody waiting. There's nobody in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we go out there, we sit there for like 40 minutes. Nobody comes. Nobody at all. And it's cold and it's snowing.
It just means you're first in line. You're so good.
that's what I'm saying. And she's like, I'm gonna go sit in the car. And like, well, what if somebody comes up? Like, what if they do what they did on Black Friday, where they roll up in like 3 trucks? They all start unloading their couches because they did this. This is a real thing that happened, and the police came and took their couches away.
That's heavy lifting for the cops.
Well, in the sense that they made them carry their couch back to their car.
There it is.
The cops didn't carry the couch.
Just like
I don't know why they brought a couch in their truck.
Makes sense.
I guess you have a flatbed truck. I mean, your couch isn't ridiculously huge. I mean, I guess you could do that.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I need to know this story works out for you.
So, I go back to the car at some point, sitting out there alone playing. What was I playing on 3DS? Something. Probably Pokemon. Sitting there waiting. I go back to the car. Nobody comes. About 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. Just like 4 cars start rolling in the parking lot.
Oh.
She's like, go! I start booking it back to Target, like out of the car. She's like getting the stuff back, like ready to go. And I sit down and first in line. And we're all sitting there from 4 in the morning until 8.
Life on a submarine just sounds terrifying to me. Like no daylight. I imagine just pure isolation, and it doesn't sound pleasant. So I don't know if you can sell, like you said you're a recruiter now. Like how do you sell?
Well, I was a recruiter. Okay. I was a recruiter years ago. I'm fully out of the military now.
Oh, okay.
So life on a submarine can be terrible and wonderful.
Okay.
So, you're right. You don't know what time of day it is.
Just like video games.
Yeah, there you go.
Nobody's ever made that connection before, ever.
No, probably not. So, whenever you're, as far as like what time of day it is, you know what time of day it is by what meal is being served.
Right.
And by if you walk into control, if it's dark, like with a red light on, or if it's lit up like with regular lights on. That's how you know if it's daytime or nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take logs every hour, so you know what time it is based on the hour that you're writing down.
Is that why they do those things? Is just to make sure that your body has some sort of like signal? Okay.
Oh, no,
they don't care about that. Yeah. Okay. It's got to have some
care.
sort of functional.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's. I was on 2 different subs, and they had their separate difficulties. And my first sub was actually really great, minus certain times where the leadership had issues here and there.
Right.
But my first period of time on the submarine, I'm qualifying, and qualifying takes a long time. And until you're qualified, you're basically a piece of crap. I mean, that's just the way they play it. It's kind of a game, right? Once you're qualified, life on a sub can be good.
Nice.
We work on an 18-hour day. So it's 6 hours of standing watch, 6 hours of off time where you clean, do maintenance. If neither of those need to happen, you do whatever you want. Right. And then 6 hours of sleep time. And then depending on what's going on, those get shuffled around, and sometimes you get robbed of your sleep, sometimes you get extra, whatever. So once you're qualified, I mean, when you're off watch, you're watching movies on the cruise mess.
Yeah.
My first deployment, I brought a DS. Is it DS or no? It might have been the flip up Game Boy.
The Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
DSP. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I brought that with me, and a buddy of mine had Final Fantasy Tactics, so I played through that all.
Oh, that's awesome!
It was so much fun. My second deployment, though, I was fully qualified.
Mm-hmm.
We had enough extra people, so my watch rotation. I would stand watch every evening from 6 p.m. to midnight.
Okay.
And then from midnight to 6 p.m., I was off.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to do clean. If there's maintenance, I have to do maintenance. But what we do is me and this one other guy, we'd get off watch at midnight. We'd eat mid-rats. We'd go clean for an hour. We'd come back to the cruise mess, help them clean the cruise mess because that's where the big TV was. And I brought my GameCube out to sea with me.
Yes.
Plugged the GameCube in, and he and I would sit there until it was time to get ready for breakfast. So it was probably about 4 hours or so. And we'd sit there and play Mario Kart Double Dash and Smash Brothers.
That is awesome.
We probably did that every single day for a few months.
Yeah.
Because in the middle of the night when we were doing this, it wasn't needed for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd help them get breakfast ready. We would snack as we were helping them because they were letting us do this, so we would help out. And then we'd go to sleep for a while, and then the next day we'd do it again. And I mean, we beat the whole, we beat all the levels, got all the stars, all that stuff, and it was amazing. Like that was so much fun that year.
You're in Germany for 3 years. You come back stateside for what, another year or so? Like, did you have like a 5-year kind of deal? Like what?
No, so my plan was to do 20 years. From the jump, I was going to do 20 years. Yeah. And so in that deployment, we got deployed in August of 2007. January of 2008, I get hit. I'm on the rooftop of an abandoned building, not my building, but an abandoned building. We use fiber cables when you're deployed for speed. And normally you would just bury the fiber like 3, 4, 5 feet on the ground. You just dig it and then bury it. So when the tanks roll through, you don't crush the glass cable. Mm-hmm. But we were on a concrete compound, so that wasn't feasible. So we were doing it from like rooftop to rooftop, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Running the cable across the roofs. And I'm on an abandoned building. I'm on just a random roof. And all I hear was... I woke up 2 days later. That's it.
What?
I woke up 2 days later. It was an abandoned building. I was the only one on it. Hit the building I was on. I went flying and hit my head, busted my shoulder. I have... So they... Long story short, I won't go into details because
I want details. What do you mean?
I can't. Okay.
Well, sure.
Maybe off stream or off camera. I can give you details. But it blows up the building. Sure. I land on my head. It was one of those. So if you don't know, Iraq is very hot, 130 degrees, very hot. So you cannot work in these conditions with full battle gear on, right? The Kevlar helmet, the vest, the shoulder water wings, and all. So I take all this shit off.
Yeah, you're like a kicker out there.
I'm up there. Yes, I'm up there on the roof with my boots, pants, shirt, and that's it. And so I don't have anything to protect me from being blasted off the roof. Not that it would help really.
Right.
So I landed on my head. So I messed up my head. I got brain damage. I got mild brain damage to the back of my brain. My memory is complete shit to this day. I tore all the ligaments in my right shoulder. Messed up my back. Blew up both my knees.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I end up they keep me for a couple of days. At the time they don't know all these injuries. They don't know about the torn ligaments in the shoulder. They don't know about the brain damage. We don't know.
And nobody's telling your guys in World of Warcraft that you're going to be out of commission for a couple of days. That's the true crime here.
I don't think the message got across. Yes. I just got kicked out of the raid group. Whatever. No remote. So I wake up and they keep me in the hospital there in Iraq for a couple of days and IVs and all kind of stuff. And I go back to work. I'm in a lot of pain, so I got like muscle relaxers and stuff like that to help me sleep at night. But I go back. I finish my deployment. So this happens in January of 2008. We don't come home until July.
Yeah.
And I finish, and then we come home and we go through the in-processing, which requires a full physical and all this and these exams. And they find out, hey, what happened while you deployed? And I'm like, I don't know. This thing happened. I fell off a roof. And they say, wait, go back. You fell off a roof? Well, yeah, the thing hit, it blew up. And because at this point, I've been dealing with it for, what 7 months? You know?
Yeah,
and it's just like
it's old news.
For me, it's like old news. Like, yeah, this thing happened a couple months ago and whatever. So they send me for MRIs and all this kind of stuff. They do a full workout. And they say, hey, listen, you're not medically cleared to be in the Army. You can't do this. And so backtrack. My accident happened 1 month after I re-enlisted. I re-enlisted, deployed. Like, yeah, we're going to re-enlist for another 8 years. Because at this point, I had been in for right at 6.
Yeah.
So I re-enlist. We'll do another 8. And then when that 8's up, I'll re-enlist to finish up my 20. And I get injured, whatever, and I finish up my deployment. I get back, and they say you're not physically fit to be. So you can't do this anymore.
Do you tell your parents about, like, your family about the accident?
No, nobody knows. I don't tell them
because you're not allowed to like reveal those details at the time.
Because I don't. No, because I don't give my mother a reason to worry. Because she never liked me being in the Army in the first place. Me being deployed was hard enough. So when I woke up and whatnot, you would think the first thing you do is call your mom and say, "Hey, by the way,
this happened."
I didn't tell anybody anything.
What did you have to tell her something? You had to let her know that you're still kicking.
But she had no idea that I was ever injured. I didn't
right,
call
but you call her up and say like, "Hey, just act normal," kind of thing.
Yeah, I would just talk to her like normal, like while I was deployed. After
Liar!
I would just call and just say, "Hey, what's going on? Nothing, yada yada yada." Doing my thing. I never let on that anything ever happened.
Yeah.
For years, years.
Chris,
So they retire. So what happens basically is they retire me. They retire me out of the army. So I get out sooner than I'm supposed to get out. Mm-hmm. So I tell my mom. She goes, "Well, why are you getting out?" "Oh, I'm retired." "Why?" I messed up my shoulder when I was deployed. That's all I tell her. I messed up my shoulder and I can no longer fire an M16 because how you hold a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I need to get one of those ergonomic mouse, like
yes.
You can hold it sideways instead of the regular mice.
I retire out, whatever, and years go by, and it's not until Christmas. So I get out in 2000. It takes like a year and a half for the process to go through for me to get out. So I was just in the army, like collecting a paycheck for like a year and a half, going to meetings and stuff like that.
I'm picturing like a Jack Bauer moment where like you're at Christmas, your mom gets you like a nice sweater and you're like, "Yeah, I'll try this on." And you don't think, you whip off your shirt and there's like all your battle scars. You're just like, "What, Chris?"
We were telling stories and something came over me. And it was a very emotional time.
Yeah.
And we were talking about something. I don't remember what it was. And I just kind of started crying a little bit and they're like, dampening Christmas Eve, and I was like, "What the hell is wrong?" And this was like in 2011, maybe.
Yeah.
Like 2008. I don't tell anybody until 2011. And I just break down. And I tell the story, and my mom is livid. You what? What happened? Well, Mom, I'm okay. I'm telling you the story.
Great mom reaction, like just skips to like right when you should have told me. Not
and I explained to her, if I had told you then, you'd have flipped out.
Yep, and he was on the line.
No way, dude.
Yeah, so he was like, he has like a Cold War service ribbon, which is pretty funny.
Oh my god! So like, okay, so like for someone like me, like, because I don't even touch guns, like I'm so far removed. I'm just like, this is crazy. But like growing up, it's just the way that it is, like that people very, very close to you are off across the world, like doing very, very dangerous things. Like, what is that? I want to tap into that like mentality a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. My dad, he got out, went to law school, and went back in. He was like an army lawyer.
Okay.
It's called a JAG officer. But the only like I guess real time where it happened, like where I saw like the guns on the military base, besides like going in and out, was I was in South Korea when 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow. You personally were in South Korea?
Yeah, like my family lived there for 2 years. We're in South Korea, and, that base, like, I, like, walked out that day, and there were, like, tanks in the neighborhoods, and, they, like, pulled my dad out of bed at, like, midnight and took him to some bunker where they, had, like, a meeting with all these guys. Mm-hmm. They put the whole base on, like, lockdown. Like, there were tanks and soldiers and, like, planes and artillery, and, I mean, it was, like, they mobilized.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I was going to say, like, from your perspective, like, being halfway across the world and hearing this news that America's under attack, like, at that moment, do you think you're going to war?
Yeah, I mean, that was on that base. I mean, we have a bunch of soldiers they call, like, the rapid response units and stuff like that,
mm-hmm.
and they did. We rolled the M1 Abrams out, they parked them at the gates, they put the sandbags out, there were guns and cannons and...
So what's that like? Like you're in bed when this is happening, you get woken up, or like?
So actually, I don't even think my dad woke my mom up when he left because he didn't know exactly what happened. But we woke up that morning because I think it happened. It was earlier in America when it happened.
Right.
And my mom was like watching the news that morning and thought it was like a video because I mean it doesn't look real.
By the way, I wanted to group all of that in together mainly because Dave and John and Ben and Chris, holy crap, everybody's become so close, obviously. But I was really taken by Dave's passion for podcasts. Obviously, that was a connection that I have with many people, but he takes it to that next level by just having that vision for that network. So I wanted to have that sort of refresher within here. That's where all of this started. This show is now on dayspace.com, and it all started with that show John Beeler, of course, Johnny Casino met Dave. They met through this community as well as Nintendo Dads, and it's really awesome just to see everybody kind of come together. Not that that's going to happen every time, but the fact that it can happen makes this pretty amazing. This next section is sort of like the dream come true section as well, where I've been a fan of IGN, reviews on the run, and all these different things for a very, very long time. And to have people who I look up to and people who have made it and get paid to actually do this for a living was amazing. So this next group of clips is from the Reviews on the Run crew. Steve Tilley, him and I grew up in the same city here in Edmonton. Scott Jones and Marissa Roberto very recently on the show. So I'm looking at you, Victor Lucas. I still got to get Victor Lucas and Ben Silverman, but you can go over to the Megadads because those guys hit them up. So here we go with the Reviews on the Run crew.
What I'm playing right now is I've got the HTC Vive, the VR headset.
Oh, yes.
And I've always been fascinated with VR, and I've been so looking forward to finally seeing the beginnings of kind of the VR revolution. And even though the tech is super expensive and clunky and it's not really user-friendly, there are moments in there that are just blowing me away. There's one game in particular called Space Pirate Trainer, I think.
Okay.
And you use the Vive controllers as guns, and you're basically like Neo in the Matrix fighting drones. You're moving around, dodging bullets, and like two-hand firing your guns, and you can like flick one of the guns into a shield and ricochet their shots back at them. And it's like
awesome. It's
the simplest game, and if you're playing it on a like a 2D screen with a controller, it would be kind of boring. It would just there's nothing innovative about it. But when you're moving around a space, I have to push all my furniture out of my living room to make this work. Or you're moving around in a space and like literally ducking and dodging bullets and pointing controllers naturally as you would point a gun. It taps into something really weird. And I think like right now VR is
standing when you're playing, or are you
standing,
out of your
dodging,
chair?
Jump. Oh yeah. I mean, there are a lot of like sit down VR experiences, but the room scale VR stuff is the stuff that's really, really interesting. And so I'm literally dodging and ducking and it's a lot of fun. So I can't wait to see where that goes. I mean, right now it's still really in its infancy, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we're slipping on a very light, slim pair of goggles and tapping into these like almost photorealistic worlds, that's going to be mind blowing. That's going to be like Ready Player One kind of stuff. It's going to be like really tapping into another kind of reality. And I'm so curious about how that's going to affect us and how that's going to affect how we interact with each other. And I mean, if you have a not great life, but you can put on a piece of technology and trick your brain into thinking you're in a much better place, how's that going to affect people, and how's that going to it's all fascinating, but it's so much fun to play. And so right now I'm playing this dumb little like Space Pirates like shooting game, and I can't get enough of it.
I love it. I'm just picturing just like people in a row, if you had like a multiplayer game and everybody's got their masks on and they're just like kind of like bumping into each other, but because you lose all inhibition, you're just kind of like, I guess I'm in this world, and I guess that I think I'm moving really cool, but I'm not athletic at all.
I was out in the world. I was in a city I didn't understand. I was working my first jobs, really, and I worked as a waiter in a country club in Chicago. But at night, I would go home and I would play games. I had a Super Nintendo, which was really like a close friend. It was a very intimate relationship. I love the Super Nintendo, always my favorite console. But I knew where the game stores were around Chicago, and back then, you don't know this, and for sure a lot of the people who are consuming this interview won't know this, but you would hope that The Legend of Zelda was going to come out, but it would never come out when it was supposed to come out. And so you'd be on a list, and they would call you when it finally came in. And it was supposed to come out, I think, in the fall of a certain year, and then it didn't come out until late summer of the following year, and that was just the world you lived in. Like, a game came out on a cartridge. There was no, like, we'll ship it and we'll have, like, a 30 gig update on day one when people get it, which is what a lot of games do. Like, they ship sort of finished version of the game, but they still work on it frantically for the 4 to 6 weeks between the time it leaves the developer and goes to the printing press. And now, because of the internet, they can ship these updates. But back then, it's like you send this cartridge out and you hope it worked. And I just remember, living in Chicago, knowing where all the game stores were, first, living this urban life, having this job. I was trying to write back then. I was applying to graduate school. I wanted to be a writer. So I was trying to get into MFA programs and go to workshops and stuff like that. But mostly I was home gaming. And that's when I played Zelda for the first time. That's when I remember finishing a couple times. I loved it. And I remember Super Metroid and all the great games for the Super Nintendo I played. Contra 3, Alien Wars,
oh yeah.
Yeah, so many great moments. Such a great console. It's the console that I feel like is in my heart more than any other console.
Mm-hmm. So you have a deep love. I want to just quickly say that I almost don't even want to admit this, but I really enjoy you just assuming how young I am, because that's always nice to hear. But I definitely remember the days of calling Toys R Us when a Super Nintendo game or something old would come out, and you would call incessantly and say, like, is it in yet? Is it in yet? And they would start to know you, and you kind of play the game with the clerk at the store. You start to change your voice, or you'd hand the phone to your mom to try and get her to just be a different voice on the phone. It's just
the worst thing. The worst thing, though, the other thing we take for granted now with the internet, and you can look up FAQs and things like that, is back then you had no choice. If you were stuck in a game, you had to call the Nintendo hotline.
Did you ever call?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I got stuck a couple times in a few different games, and it was just frustrating because there was no gaming community. All the gaming I was doing was very private. Maybe I talked to a couple of the cooks at work about gaming, but I didn't know what to do when I was stuck, and it would drive me mad when I couldn't get any further in a game, and I had nowhere to turn. And so for sure I called the Nintendo hotline. I don't even know if it still exists.
I think they opened it up for a bit when they launched the NES Classic. They opened it for 3 or 4 days or something. I heard a rumor, but I mean, who knows? That's so Nintendo.
It was wonderful to be able to call, and I loved thinking, oh my God, I'm calling Nintendo. I'm calling this magic company. And you would get on hold. They would put you on hold, and you would love being on hold because they would play theme music while you were on hold. And then you'd get these Nintendo game counselors who you knew were just surrounded by, huge binders of game information. And I'm like, I'm stuck here. I can't figure out how to get the sword. I don't know how I got in this room. How do I get out of it? And I did the same thing, like you're talking about changing your voice. I called so often and paid those fees so often that I would just, I would try to sound. I was a man in my early 20s back then, and I just would try to sound a little younger than I was, And I just figured I have to be the oldest guy calling. I'm sure I wasn't, but I thought I was probably the oldest. I thought only kids called these numbers.
But people had to pay for it. You had to
pay for it. Yeah.
So you had to have at least access to a credit card. So the young kids are trying to sound old enough to legitimize the whole fact that they have a credit card. And here you are in your 20s trying to sound younger. I find that hilarious.
That's right. I've been part of this business for a long time, man.
Yeah.
And I was part of this business in my mind before I was ever really part of this business.
So you knew that this was what you were going to do from an early age?
I didn't know. I just knew that I loved it. I was trying to be a serious student. I wanted to get a degree, and I would eventually get an MFA in poetry, which is the most useless degree I think in the world.
I think that's fascinating.
But I was trying to be serious, but I would go and I would teach my classes, and I would go and I would, do my readings, and I would do everything I had to do to get this degree, and I would write, and I would think, oh, there's going to be greatness for me. And, I would send out my poems to literary magazines, and the first time I sent poems out, I remember, I sent out 10 poems, and 6 got accepted. And I just thought, oh, here I go. I'm in the roller coaster. I'm going off on the literary world, and then, the whole time I was in graduate school, all I did was do all my stuff and then go home and play video games. I would just go home and play. I had a, Super Nintendo at home in my apartment off campus, and I would just plug it in, and I would just let go of everything, and I would just let myself get pulled into these game worlds that felt so great and so comforting for me.
Right, but that was my first realization that, this is going to be harder than I thought. People are going to judge me for sure because I have a vagina. It's just something that's going to happen. And And I get it because I did the same thing and I still do the same thing. Like, it's hard for me to, it's hard for you to believe somebody, or you feel like they just want the attention of this moment, or it's easier to get into this because this industry, because you do have a vagina and there needs to be more of them here. So,
Is that a
I
thing?
don't like it. The thing is that it is, if you love this stuff, like you genuinely love it, it's okay. That's going to shine through one way or another. You just have to keep at it. So for all the women out there that...
Does it shine through the vagina? Is that what happens?
It shines right through the vagina.
Goodness gracious.
Right in your face.
It's rainbow.
Yeah. They're just wonderful, aren't they?
Stance.
I always think of that South Park episode where, like, they're queefing and they have to, like... And Martha Stewart makes that pot, whatever it is, like where she queefs on her show, and it like this big cloud of sparkles and fairies. It was just so stupid. I love South Park so much. God, I love that show.
We just realized that we make up songs to Lincoln. I'm so sorry for interrupting, but on South Park, we sing songs and we make them up on the spot. They don't last more than a day, but there's one that has stuck around, and we realized it is because we're singing it to the melody of "I'm Super, Thanks for Asking," the Big Gay Al song from the movie. It's just Aaron Lincoln, and we realized like just yesterday, we were watching that video yesterday. But anyway, back to women.
Back to vaginas.
Yeah. So we're here with Josh Stapleton. We're in the middle of the show, and I thought that this would be a really good place to kind of let everybody know just how this show came to be. You know, I've mentioned for a while that I was toying around with trying to get a big guest, and also, by the way, Lincoln is here for this segment, if you guys hear him. Trying to get a big guest, but then I also thought that was sort of like disrespectful to a lot of people who have been on the show or have been trying to get on the show, and I'm like, no, you guys have to wait. So I wanted to have, I came up with an idea afterwards that why don't we make this Eclipse episode? And Josh, you stepped up huge, like I didn't even ask, you just kind of came up out of nowhere. And I wanted to get to the bottom of this. I wanted to ask you, like, what the hell compelled you to go back and listen to all these episodes and like timestamp everything? Like everything that people are hearing today is thanks to you. What the heck? Why, Josh?
Well, you put out a thing on Twitter saying, hey, if anyone has any suggestions, and I have a job where I can throw my headphones on and for the most part listen to quite a bit of podcasts throughout the day. I mean, there's always interruptions and whatnot. But at first I was like, oh, okay, I'll kind of skim through, and I had a couple in my head that I remembered them, like, oh, I really like this episode, really like that episode.
Yeah.
And so I listened to a couple random one. I don't want to say random, but I listened to, like ones in the 50s and 60s, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and listen to the first one with Seamus.
Oh god.
And it kind of just snowballed from there. I ended up kind of having a method to my madness. I would, no offense, but I'd skip your intro.
Yep.
Because it was always like what your week's about, which is great at the time. But when you're going back and you're looking for clips, I would get right to the interview, and it ended up just being a lot of fun. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and it was one of those, well, maybe I'll listen to 5 or 10, and then it was, well, I'm in the 20s and I'm in the 40s, and so I just kind of just kept going, and I think I made it into the early 90s. But I mean, it sounds like a bigger effort than it really was, because I would skip the E3 stuff because that was all,
so there's like 12 episodes there. Actually, probably even more than. Yeah,
I think it was 12 because you had the three, or you had the Xbox and Nintendo, the PlayStation, and then the before and the after.
Right. That's how we skipped up to 100 to episode number 100, just in case anybody else was like wondering, like, what the heck? He's only been doing this for like a year and a half. What the hell? Yeah, I just cheat the system. And actually, I think there's a couple more episodes in there too. I think we did like a Gears of War review, and I think we did a Forza Horizon thing with Brock McLaughlin.
With Brock,
which was awesome. And oh my goodness. Well, I don't sell yourself short, man, because like that takes, even just to jot down the notes, I think is so sweet. And I wanted to make sure that I took some time, and we obviously have everybody else coming back for a special segment here, and you absolutely had to have a portion in this episode. So I just wanted to thank you so much. And is there anything else, any other comments that you have about going back and like listening through and changes in the show or anything? Do you miss anything that we used to do, or I don't know, like what's come up as there must be something?
it was fun to see your progression, from the beginning, and kind of to see your confidence grow. Even the haze, from the hey, it's me, to, hey, which was a lot of fun. But even more so than that, it was just fun to go back and I've listened to all these before, but you hear so many different insights into people's lives, and you see the commonality in gaming, but then you also see, you see these touching stories, you see a lot of funny stories, and you just get a feel for these people. And even though we all have all these different backgrounds, you were interviewing people up in Canada, in the States, in Japan.
Yeah, man.
Anywhere and everywhere, but yet we still have that common tie. And it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of things that I would hear and remember, and it brought back these good memories. But then there are also a lot of little things that I forgot too. So basically, it's just the human interest side of things, which was what kept pulling me back and kept me listening to more and more and more.
Oh man, and as I'm going through these clips as well, I'm thinking the same. I'm like, man, I should go back and listen to everyone. It's different for me just being like half of the voice on these things too. So it's trying not to be an incredible narcissist as well. This is definitely a celebration of everybody else, and I wanted to take this time just as we wrap up this quick segment here. To thank you for inspiring me through your work with Cool Night. You've recently started up your YouTube stuff. So I wanted to give you a quick chance to go ahead and tell everybody, if they haven't already checked it out, they absolutely should, because I can't wait to do something like that with I'm just going to rip off your format and just do that. This. Right now, he doesn't look like he's just chewing away on my wrist. But Lincoln and I will definitely be doing something like that.
Yeah, he'll be there before you know it. Well, so we started this YouTube channel called Raising a Gamer, and what it is I got the idea, I'd say mainly from Married to the Games. One of the questions that was asked a lot of times on that show is, hey, I have a son or daughter that's, 5 or 6 or 7. When do I start playing games with them? What do I start? And so my son's 9, almost 10 years old. And he's really into the typical stuff, Minecraft, this game called Terraria. But then he's into the Mario. Yeah, he's into a lot of different games. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to start playing these different games with him. I have a love for retro games along with new stuff. And so I just started going out at garage sales, finding things. And we're just playing a ton of old games, and then and new ones too. And then we'll make a short video where we just kind of give our reactions and kind of see, his thoughts on it. And it's been a blast.
It's so awesome. So tell everybody where to find you on the internet and where to find your channel and all of that stuff.
So the channel's called Raising a Gamer, and the Twitter handle for it is Raising Gamer. But then the one that I use more often is my Twitter handle, cred_81. So come tweet at me and we'll have a good time.
I love it. Well, it's on the video version here as well, so everybody come check that out. And thank you again, Josh. Thank you barely even seems to scratch the surface. This episode would not be what it is without you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, you guys, we are on the home stretch here. Thank you so much for listening or watching on youtube.com/WeTheNerdy and supporting on patreon.com/MakeUsBetter. That's the whole reason this is video. That's the reason why we're still here. So thank you guys for, even if you're not supporting on Patreon, if you're just listening, I am so grateful. And if you've been a guest on the show, I am so grateful. This next section is all about the street team and the Married to the Games crew. So we've got Spencer Stapleton from Fortress of Nerditude. We've got most of the Married to the Games crew, Tim Router, Gabe Patillo, and Chris McCrackin. And maybe I'll just have a moment of silence for Ed Placencia. I had an episode. It's the lost episode. I am so frustrated that I had it, and it was amazing, and it's gone. So here's a quick. We'll just insert what I've got from Ed's episode right here. That's it. That's all. Dead silence. There's nothing there. So we're going to start with Spencer and roll right into the Married to the Games crew.
I spent a lot of time over at Aladdin's Castle, or we had this pizza place in DeKalb, which was like the next city over. And it was really funny because we still go there when we end up getting back home, which granted I haven't been home in like 10 years. But you would go On the main level, you go down like 4 steps, and you'd be like in this little, I don't know, just like this little like dingy area that all it had was a TMNT arcade game. It had a Mortal Kombat game.
Oh, yeah.
It had like a Galaga and a Pac-Man. It was like 4.
Mm-hmm.
There was like, it wasn't much. But we played the mess out of TMNT. I mean, that game just, it saw a lot of quarters for me. And so we would beg Mom and Dad. They'd say, hey, what do you guys want to do? They're like, can we go get pizza? Can we go get pizza? And they'd say, okay, well, let's just order Domino's. No, let's go to Pizzaville. Let's go to, we'd have to beg my dad to, get back outside, get in the car, pack up all of us kids, and drive us, like miles into the other town just so we could go play arcade games while we ate pizza.
Oh my gosh.
And as a father now, I understand how much work and effort that is after you've worked a full long day. You've been gone from the home for 9 or 10 hours and you're just exhausted. And so I give a lot of props to my dad back in the day, because that's a good dad move to take your kids across town to let them play video games.
You're at 200. You're in an upper echelon now. Like, what does this mean to you guys? Like, this is sort of, do you ever sit back and go, holy cow, we have been podcasting since before The Last of Us.
We do that. We say that pretty much every week.
Yeah.
We say, holy cow. Like, in fact, every time sometimes Gabe doesn't remember what episode this is. And that's kind of our cue. Like, man, we've been doing this for this long. Mm-hmm. But it's not one of those, man, we've been doing it for this long. It's like, man, we've been doing it for this long. That's awesome. Like, I get so hyped up. I could be really tired, like, right before we're ready to record and everything. And all of us, it's so funny. All of us, like, get on. We're all like, oh, man, I'm so tired. The minute Gabe says, oh, yes, y'all, everybody perks up. I know. I'm like, I have a smile on my face. I'm all excited. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. It's like there is rarely a time when I'm like, oh, man, I got to do the podcast. That's just how it is. It's just.
You only fell asleep once.
I only fell asleep. Oh, my gosh. That was hilarious. I totally tried to pull it off. I'm like, oh, man, they totally got me.
I rewound that part a few times. I had to re-listen.
Oh, yeah. I even told Hall, I said, Hall, you got to turn this up because you heard me breathing all heavy. I gave him, after that podcast, I gave him the minute marker so that he knew exactly where it was. I'm like, oh, that was too good. I just crashed, man. I was dying that day. Dying.
You're such a family. It seems like you're just, not just seems, you are like such a family-oriented guy right from the very beginning. You get married, like, this is, I'm going to provide, I'm going to take care. Where does that come from? Like, what was the example?
I think wanting to not be like my dad. I think is kind of where it came from. Uh-huh. And so I come from a broken home and, didn't really grow with my dad around. And so that was, as I grew up, really important for me to have like a stable household where my children could come and where they could bring their kids and feel like home. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, I think that's where, where a lot of people, we hear it all the time, like, I'm predisposed to this because my parents, blah, blah, blah. But I think my personality just, And my mom said that I always was drawn to families. Mm-hmm. Like when I was younger, I'd always like to go stay at families' house. Like if I had a buddy and his parents were married, I'd love to go stay at their house.
Right.
And so, I did a lot of that, I guess, coming up. And so, I think it was just not having it growing up. And then my wife didn't have it either. She came from a broken home. And so we both were like pretty dead set on like, man, we would love our family like this. Now, can crazy stuff happen?
Sure.
Of course. None of us are perfect. People make mistakes. But as far as we're concerned, we're like, we know what those mistakes look like.
Sure.
We've both seen them in our different families in different ways. And let's just try to avoid those situations. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, people might think that, we're not real strict on it. It's not like I can't be in a car with a girl or something like that.
Sure.
But, just, as far as like, just relationships with the opposite sex and like, oh, me and Christy were talking and we went out to lunch and we were just cracking up. Like we just, we try not to, just because we have it in our past, you know what I'm saying? So we try not to, do that.
I have my first coming in April.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It was a lot of hard work.
I don't feel sorry for you at all.
But I'm taking like the Timothy Hall route of just like, maybe I just completely walk away. Like, and I don't know. Like, I have no idea what's happening.
Sure.
So maybe it's because
this is now the third, you have a better idea of what maybe to expect. But like, can we expect more from you?
Yeah,
like, you at all?
Yeah, I've got. I feel like I have grand visions for the podcast. Yeah. It's become something I love so much to do, and so I base so much around it. And you know, I mean, you know, I want us to go to cons. I want us to go, you know, to E3 and be able to cover stuff, do more video. And so I just got to figure out how to put things in place to make it easy. Because we could do video but it would be real daunting right now.
Totally.
And so I just want to make it easy. That's why I'm trying to get, you know, you've seen all my stuff sitting over here. So I want to make it a run and gun situation to where it just makes it easy to edit, easy to do. The sound comes through the you know, because right now I do video and sound separate and then put it together, and then, you know, so I want to do more stuff like that. I want each, you know, 100 thing to grow. You know, we've now celebrated 100 episodes, then 200 episodes. I want I have like these grand visions for episode 300. I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe it gets pushed to 400, but like, you know,
do you want to just like race to get there though? Like almost like you kind of go, well, we're locked in every week.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever think like, well, how can we get there even sooner? Because I want you guys to get there sooner.
I know.
Like, come on.
I'm the same way.
I missed 200. I'm like, I cannot believe I didn't go. This would have been a phenomenal year to go. I feel so terrible. I'm so glad we got a chance to meet here.
Yeah, man.
But now I'm like, so maybe what about like 250?
I know.
Or like 225?
We talk about it all the time. We're like, we need more things to celebrate just to get back. Because it really did stay with me for like 2.5 months after we did 200. I was like on a cloud just getting to hang out with everybody and being so humbled by all the people that came.
Well, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I needed to start with a question for you that comes straight from Bobby. I was just recording it for Nintendo with him, and he wants to know why you hate Nintendo.
I don't hate Nintendo. Okay, I don't hate Nintendo, but here's the thing. So I have nostalgia for Nintendo, like because I had the NES, I had the SNES, I had the Nintendo 64. And that was the last Nintendo console that I bought. I never had a GameCube. We did have a Wii for a short time when me and my wife got married. She had a Wii.
Because everybody had a Wii.
Yeah, everybody in the world.
It's like everybody had a microwave. He had a Wii.
And then I gifted that to my nephew, and we didn't get the Wii U. She kind of didn't really care one way or the other. She really just got it because she, like everybody, like, oh, I want to play the dance game and play the bowling and whatever. So when the Wii U was around, I was like, are you wanting this? And she's like, no, I'm kind of over that, whatever. And so what I don't, okay, here's what I don't like. And it's really weird because what I'm about to say pretty much only applies to the gaming world. Right. It doesn't, I really don't apply this standard I'm about to give you to technology or cars or any other thing. And I don't know why it is. Maybe it's just because gaming is my main focus. I don't know. But I don't like what I perceive as arrogance. I don't like that.
So like coming from a company?
Yeah, coming from a company, like from a gaming company, but a studio, a platform holder, a developer, whatever it is. I don't like that. Not saying that sometimes it's not due because they've, done a great job, but I'm just saying I don't like it when people go on to the level of arrogance, in my opinion. So you see Sony, they had they were on flying high with PS2. And then PS3 comes out and they're like, you'll get another job, $599 US. And you know what? The market was like, nope. And then they were made to eat humble pie. And they were like, oh, geez, and they really turned it around and became all friendly again. And then there can be debate whether they're starting to revert back to old Sony right now and blah, blah, blah. But they kind of like made amends. They're like, okay, sorry. Microsoft had the same thing. They 360 and then Xbox One comes out. They're like, TV. We can't just remove the Kinect. You can't turn off DRM. You can't flip a switch. Then when they do, they remove the Kinect. They flip a switch because people are like, nope. So then Nintendo comes out with the Wii U and just, all their weird stuff that they do, which I understand, they're Nintendo. They can have their own thing. But like no real online. I mean, they're starting to get into that now. And just all the little things like region locking, all this crazy stuff. And I feel like they've never apologized or ate humble pie or been like, sorry about that, guys. And I don't feel like their fans, for the most part, hold them accountable.
episode 100 is almost finished, but we would never have even started if it wasn't for the Kind of Funny community. So I think that it's fitting that we end out the show with the last real segment. We'll have a special little something at the very end, but the last segment here is dedicated to the Kind of Funny community. So we've got Blessing Adeoye Jr., Ian Purcell, Ben Bellevue, and Zyger, of course. There's so many other people who have come onto this show as part of the Kind of Funny community, but there's a couple clips here that we wanted to have as part of the end. Kind of funny. Here it is.
My dad moved to Nigeria away from our family to become a missionary and open up like a church and hospital and orphanage in Nigeria. Yeah. And so basically I moved there when I was 11 to kind of live with him for a little bit and kind of spend some time with him.
But just your dad?
Yeah, it was just my dad. Now my mom lives there too.
Okay.
But my mom stayed behind to kind of take care of the kids and make sure that like we got through school and all that stuff, because we still we had to like finish up like college and high school and all that stuff. I was still very young. And so like I ended up going there for middle school. And I thought I was going to be there for like either like until after high school for the rest of my life, but I ended up coming back because my parents were like, well, if you want to get him into like a good college, you should probably go to high school in America. And so yeah, that's how that happened.
Holy crap. Okay, you were just going to skip over that. I mean, we don't really have topics here. We dance all over the place, but I need to understand this, because I'm always interested in like an immigrant story or just picking up and moving completely somewhere else. And you've sort of done that twice, just by moving there and then coming back. And this is happening for you at an age that you are totally aware of your surroundings. You've come to know life as it is in America, and then just to move. Like, so first I want to ask, like, what was your first reaction as your dad is saying, like, this is the plan, everybody else is staying here, I'm going to go there? Like, how is that? Is it something that is just part of your like it's just so part of your family values that of course dad's going over to Nigeria for missionary work, or was it still a bit of a surprise and was it jarring for the family?
I think the process of him like moving to Nigeria was so slow that I was like, that by the time he did, we're all kind of like accepting of it, and pretty like supportive of it too. And by the time like I got the news that I was going, I think I always at the point had wanted to go to Nigeria just because I didn't really know what Nigeria was like, and so I was kind of excited, kind of like scared, kind of sad, it was a large mix of emotions.
Totally.
At the time I wanted to go though, but like by the time, funny thing is like the moment I got there, I was like, oh, what did I do? What have I done?
Oh, really?
Because like it was so different. And like nowadays, I don't regret that decision at all, because it's probably one of the best decisions I made in my life is to like go live in another country for a couple years.
Yeah.
But at the time, like as an 11-year-old moving to like Africa,
oh my god,
isn't like it's not at the time is kind of mind blowing. It's not like the thing that you realize that you kind of need. So yeah, I got there and I was like, this place is just different. Like,
what struck you immediately?
I think the style of living.
Okay.
Like. There's a lot more poor people. There's like a lot more. I remember like seeing all the people on motorcycles and being like, why are there so many motorcycles? Motorcycles are common to use as taxis in Nigeria, and like
as
I guess
taxis?
a lot of African. Yeah.
You can't even use taxis as cabs in video games.
Oh yeah. It's very dangerous.
Obviously.
Like, yeah, which is why you probably don't see them as much as in America, because like in Nigeria, like the reason why they work out so well as taxis is because like the motorcycles just like maneuver around everything, and there's always traffic, and so like it was one of the things where I was like,
take
okay,
a back road somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Or like let's just like ride in between traffic the whole way there.
But it's also like a video game tournament hall essentially.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So you can like play Smash Brothers, you can play Injustice, you can play all these cool games. So my girlfriend played Blessing in a game of Injustice and won. And I was like, all right, here we are. And then a bunch of people cheered like, yeah, Gowdy, you did it. And she's like, I did it. And I was like, you did it. Like, it was this whole big thing where everyone was celebrating. And it was just this fun thing with like a bunch of friends drinking beers and like hanging out and playing games.
That's awesome.
So that was the first
one.
moment. Yeah. And then the second moment was, so after everything finished, it was this kind of somber moment where I was like, oh man, it's over. You know, I'm heading back to Japan. And I had met, I don't know if you know these guys, but the 4 Yanks, 1 Aussies. Do you know those boys?
Yep. Well, I know of them. I haven't jumped on the show yet, but I know NATO's been talking about that. I've got to add yet another show to my podcast list here.
There you go.
I'm
so
getting there.
They're good boys, and the the thing about them is that we made a joke. One of the guys on the show, Cassidy, we made a joke that we were going to see each other at the airport. And I was like, yeah, probably not, because I'm an international flight and you're going to Seattle or whatever.
Right.
I was like, hey, but, maybe. Never say never. So I'm walking down in the airport, and I look down, and I see a guy that looks like Cassidy. I'm like,
no way.
And there he is with his bags right there at the same time as me. His flight was 1 hour after mine. And we sat down, we grabbed some food, we just sat down, we just like kind of reflected on the whole trip and like how we felt about everything. And if we were unsure about something, we just talked about it. And we just had a nice heart to heart. And it was like, all right, I've talked to this guy like what? Maybe for like 6 hours total on Skype or whatever, or on Discord or whatever, and on Twitter sometimes, right? I'd been on their show once, and I was like, this guy, I went from not ever meeting him online, or not ever meeting him in person ever, to sitting in the airport, having a heart-to-heart with him, like being so sad to leave him. And like, I was like, this is one of like 40 people that I met this weekend. And like, it was this perfect, like, wrap up of the bow essentially on that trip, where I was able to like, I was like concerned about like one or two things, about how I was portraying myself at the event, if I was like too much or too little or whatever. And I just talked to him about that. And like, we both like kind of reflected on the positives, the negatives, and all that sort of stuff. And it was just a great end.
I'm not going to say get along.
Yeah.
Because I think that's would be an overestimation.
Civil?
They can be civil around each other. They don't hate each other by any means. And I don't really, in a lot of ways, I don't think they're worse now than they were when they were married. They have new issues because like my dad's upset that my mom divorced him. But for the most part, their relationship and their dynamic is very similar to what it was when they were married, which is just, you guys should not be together.
Right.
You probably shouldn't be in the same room. And then as for me, I'm fine with both of them. My dad and I have our share of issues. I'm very different from him in a lot of ways. So that just raises problems. But I still love him. We still see each other and get along. I just went to Comic-Con with him for like 3 days.
That's awesome, dude.
It is. Yeah. That's been our thing for like 7 years. And
nice.
So that's like, we still have a good relationship. I'm seeing him literally tomorrow. So it's not bad. But the divorce definitely, creates friction sometimes.
Okay, so I always joke that I have an uncle who works at Nintendo. However, as many people did when they were little kids. However, I validate this because Nintendo likes releasing things on my birthday. The Wii U released my birthday. The Pokemon Sun and Moon came out on my birthday. The Nintendo 64 came out on my birthday. The Game Boy Color. The Nintendo Wii came out the day after my birthday.
Oh my god, you had the best birthday ever.
Yeah, Nintendo releases things on my birthday. There are several other games that came out on my birthday. It's like, oh yeah, I have an uncle that works at Nintendo, and then other kids would be like, no, you don't. I'm like, oh yeah, then why did this come out on my birthday? And this, and this, and this. Yeah, it's like I totally trick people to do that.
Thank you guys for listening to episode 100 or watching it on youtube.com/WeTheNerdy. This is on video thanks to all of our patrons at patreon.com/MakeUsBetter. I'm so grateful for you guys for listening and supporting the show and being on the show. Man, this has just been such an amazing ride. Remember, follow the show at GamerCast because we're going to have some information out. Tell me your favorite game. I got a special Google form. Your favorite game of all time gets you into a contest to win 1 month of EA access. I know most of you just hate on Xbox, so I guess for those of you who like Xbox, the chances are pretty good. I'm going to close out the show with a special moment. I don't know, I think some of you might know this. I know Bobby has shared this story a number of times, but I wanted to, I feel like there's really only one way to close out the show. And there was a fateful episode, probably 5 or 6 into this version, I think episode 16, when the Geek Guru approached me and wanted to be on We the GamerCast. At the time, I was really struggling with finding my voice, finding a way to do this in a time-efficient way. Things were taking me way too long, and I was getting a little frustrated, questioning why was I doing it. And then I had an amazing time, a fateful episode with the Geek Guru, telling me story after story. Bobby had me in stitches, and at the very end, he said, something very, very special. I'm going to close it out with this. Thank you for listening. We're going to be back next week with episode 101. But before we close out the show, really quick thank you to our executive producers, Nick Militia from Next Level Games, Jesse Armstrong, Joel Brooks, James Johnson, Dr. Doom, Sheldon Benedict, and Glauco Schaefer. You guys are amazing. All of our Patreons on patreon.com/makeusbetter. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. The show is video thanks to you. And here, let's close things out with a special moment with the Geek Guru, now the Nintendo Guru, my boy, Bobby Pauls. Thanks, guys, for listening. I'll see you next week.
Let me say something before. I've already taken like an hour and something of your show.
Let's just keep going.
We're just gonna, I'm taking over your show, all right? We're just gonna keep going with this. I just want to tell anybody this. Anybody that's listening to this right now, I pray that you do two things. You go check out everything that Sean is doing, because he's doing great stuff. He's doing God's work for us lowly podcasters and getting us the limelight a little bit. But also, if you are doing podcasts and things like that, shoot him a message, get on this show, because I'm going to tell you right now, I've guested on quite a few shows, and this has been by far one of my most favorite episodes that I've done for somebody, just because I don't know why. It was great. We're talking about stuff that I really enjoyed talking about. It was carefree. You cut the chains off my jaws and just let me go, which everybody that knows me knows that's a mistake, but you braved it and you were bold. Just kidding. Not kidding about the me not shutting up, because I'm definitely a long-winded person. But honestly, like, check out Sean's stuff. Follow him, Sean Capri, like the pants. He says that all the time on Twitter. Check him out, seriously. But he's a good guy. Like, when I sent him the message and said, hey, I'd like to come on the show, I was worried that he'd be like, you're a nobody. I'm not bringing you on the show. Are you nuts? Then I realized he brought Josh Brandt on, and I thought, if he brought Josh Brandt on, he'll bring anybody on. This guy's desperate.
Open season.
I love you, Josh. I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, check out everything that Sean's doing.
Oh man, well if I don't do the video on my PC here, but if you could see me, I'm just totally red. You've absolutely warmed my heart.
That's good.
Thank you, man.
Good.
That's very kind words. I really appreciate
I don't mean any of it. I'm just hoping to get a second invite
it's just
back.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I'm just lying
absolutely.
to you. Just hoping that he'll be like, this guy's really awesome. I'm going to bring him back again. It's like, I could give two shits about you, Sean. Don't follow nothing. No, just kidding.
No, that's all right. I know what New Jersey's all about. Well, hey, actually, before we go, I do want to, maybe we could talk about this offline too, but I've got a friend of mine for Christmas. He gave me a gift card to Best Buy, which is great, but he also gave me a giant 200-pound box full of Nintendo Power. So I'm going to take some pictures of them. I don't know what to do with them. I think they're amazing. They're all in great shape, but they've been sitting ever since Christmas. I don't know. I'm in the, like we were talking about before with space. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these things, but I'll let you know. We'll work something out. Maybe I could ship a couple your way. But that would be great, man. I really appreciate you coming by and chatting with us. We're just talking about old times, and that's what it's all about. I absolutely love it.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!